of time, there was a bunch of new sailors looking around like, why the fuck are we getting a jacuzzi tub installed on our battleship? This is awesome. And then like a week later, FDR shows up and the whole crew's like, oh, well, this makes way more sense now because obviously FDR can't really shower. He's going to need a bathtub because, you know, he's got that water polo injury or whatever happened to him. Anyways, so the Willie D goes to Newport for the very first time to meet up with the USS Iowa, and while backing up, they forgot to bring the anchor up all the way and proceeded to scrape the life rafts and a bunch of other equipment off of the destroyer next to it, and then they bumped into like 2 more destroyers just trying to get out of the harbor. So they set out on this super secret mission escorting the president across the Atlantic. It's the USS Iowa being escorted by 3 destroyers, including the Willie D, and 2 escort carriers. Now, while they're traveling, they have to have complete silence to be as quiet as possible to not get detected by U-boats, and that includes not using the radio. Absolute radio silence. You have to communicate using signal lamps instead. So fast forward, we're like 24 hours into this 8-day-long mission. Everything is going great. Then suddenly they hit a rough patch of ocean, and the Willie D apparently didn't strap down all of their depth charges, and one of them just rolls off the ship into the water and fucking explodes. Okay, now the crew of the Willie D knows exactly what happened, but all the other ships have no idea, and all they know is that there was a huge explosion underwater near the boat that the president is on. Everything went from 0 to DEFCON holy shit like that. So they're thinking they're getting attacked by German U-boats. They break out into evasive maneuvers. Everybody's running to their battle stations, getting ready for a fight. And then the Willie D hops in the signal lamp and we're like, sorry, that was us. The whole radio silence thing actually comes in pretty clutch for the Willie D right here because since they can't talk on the radio, command has no idea of actually figuring out what happened. They're not going to know that somebody just forgot to ratchet strap down the depth charges. And they also can't get chewed out via signal lamps. So the whole conversation was pretty much just that. Hey, that was us. We're not getting attacked. The end for now. And since this is the first of 8 days on this voyage, there's a good chance that everybody's just going to forget that this happened and we can all move on. Fast forward 2 days, we're now on the 3rd day of the 8-day voyage, and the USS Iowa goes full dog and pony show mode, and they decide they're going to release a bunch of weather balloons to be able to shoot their anti-aircraft guns at to show off for the president. So they get all these weather balloons up in the air, and then they proceed to let them float all the way across the continental United States from Montana to the coast of South Carolina before they shoot them down with an F-22 Raptor. Wait, that's a fucking long story. Sorry.
How am I already underwater?
I'm in the same boat. I'm in an actual boat. Because I've been using Grammarly's AI for years to keep me high and dry. Try it. Grammarly can point out what's missing, right there. The CEO will want to see a deadline.
Oh.
And here you should connect the projections back to company strategy.
Yeah. Mia, can you do a deep dive?
On it. 10% higher revenue by next year.
I'm sending it in.
Budget and headcount are approved.
Download Grammarly for free.
Attention patients exposed to urologist Darius Paduch. Paduch has been criminally convicted for exploiting male patients under the guise of medical care. If you thought your varicocele procedure, ED, or Klinefelter's treatment by Paduch was questionable, we have the answers. Join the hundreds of men seeking justice, accountability, and...
A lot of you probably already know the name Desmond Doss, and even more if you would remember it if I reminded you that he was the conscientious... yes, the time the USS Iowa got a jacuzzi tub installed in it, and then reached called pizzas for the same build, is presumed something along those lines. Up, including installing a jacuzzi tub in his quarters. So for a period of time, there was a bunch of new sailors looking around like, why the fuck are we getting a jacuzzi tub installed on our battleship? This is awesome. And then like a week later, FDR shows up and the whole crew's like, oh, well, this makes way more sense now because obviously FDR can't really shower. He's going to need a bathtub because, you know, he's got that water polo injury or whatever happened to him. Anyways, so the Willie D goes to leave port for the very first time to meet up with the USS Iowa, and while backing up, they forgot to bring the anchor up all the way and proceeded to scrape the life rafts and a bunch of other equipment off of the destroyer next to it, and then they bumped into like 2 more destroyers just trying to get out of the harbor. So they set out on this super secret mission escorting the president across the Atlantic. It's the USS Iowa being escorted by 3 destroyers, including the Willie D, and 2 escort carriers. Now, while they're traveling, they have to have complete silence to be as quiet as possible to not get detected by U-boats, and that includes not using the radio. Absolute radio silence. You have to communicate communicate using signal lamps instead. So fast forward, we're like 24 hours into this 8-day-long mission. Everything is going great. Then suddenly they hit a rough patch of ocean, and the Willie D apparently didn't strap down all of their depth charges, and one of them just rolls off the ship into the water and fucking explodes. Okay, now the crew of the Willie D knows exactly what happened, but all the other ships have no idea, and all they know is that there was a huge explosion underwater near the boat that the president is on. Everything went from 0 to DEFCON holy shit like that. So they're thinking they're getting attacked by German U-boats. They break out into evasive maneuvers. Everybody's running to their battle stations, getting ready for a fight, and then the Willie D hops in the signal lamp and we're like, sorry, that was us. The whole radio silence thing actually comes in pretty clutch for the Willie D right here because since they can't talk on the radio, command has no idea of actually figuring out what happened. They're not going to know that somebody just forgot to ratchet strap down the depth charges, and they also can't get chewed out via signal lamp. So the whole conversation was pretty much just that. Hey, that was us. We're not getting attacked. The end for now. And since this is the first of 8 days on this voyage, there's a good chance that everybody's just going to forget that this happened and we can all move on. Fast forward 2 days, we're now on the 3rd day of the 8-day voyage, and the USS Iowa goes full dog and pony show mode, and they decide they're going to release a bunch of weather balloons to be able to shoot their anti-aircraft guns at to show off for the president. So they get all these weather balloons up in the air, and then they proceed to let them float all the way across the continental United States from Montana to the coast of South Carolina before they shoot them down with an F-22 Raptor. Wait, that's the fucking wrong story. Sorry, so the USS Iowa opens fire with their anti-aircraft guns. They're taking out all these weather balloons. FDR's super impressed, but then there's a huge gust of wind, and it blows a bunch of these weather balloons out of range and over towards the Willie D. At this point, the Willie D is like, oh shit, this is our chance to redeem ourselves. Quick, man those anti-aircraft guns. We got to take out these balloons. And that's exactly what they do. They start absolutely destroying these balloons. They popped every single one of them. They did a terrific job. So they pop all these balloons. The crew of the Willie D is just amped. They've totally redeemed themselves. Everybody's going to forget about that depth charge thing now. This is the best day ever. So the commander decides, not wanting to lose all of his crew's motivation, they're also going to do some torpedo drills, keep boosting up their morale, you know? So when you do a torpedo drill, you send the torpedo guy down, and he takes the primers out of the torpedoes in the torpedo tube, so that when you fire the torpedo for the drill, it doesn't actually launch the torpedo. So the chief torpedo officer goes down, takes all the primers out of the torpedoes, gives a thumbs up that they're good to proceed with the exercise. The commander of the Willie D then picks a target. Now, bear in mind, he's trying to improve his men's confidence and morale, and what are you going to do if you want them to score a hit? You're going to aim for the biggest target, right? Give them the biggest opportunity to succeed that you can give them. So they aim at the USS Iowa, you know, the ship with the president on it. So the crew takes aim with the torpedo tubes. Commander gives the order, fire torpedo number 1. Click! Torpedo stays in the tube, nothing happens. They wait a few minutes, they're like, oh hey, we scored an imaginary direct hit. Good for us, terrific. Commander gives the order again, fire torpedo number 2. Click, nothing happens, wait a few minutes. Oh hey, we scored another direct hit. Commander gives the order, fire torpedo number 3. Chief torpedo officer, fire fucking what now? The Willie D has now just fired a live torpedo at the President of the United States, and they have anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes before that thing hits the USS Iowa. What do? Obviously, you radio over to the Iowa and say, you need to move right now. But we can't do that because we're under orders to maintain radio silence, remember? And if we break radio silence, some German U-boat might come out of nowhere and shoot a torpedo at the president. So they decide they're not going to use the radio, which is like not calling the fire department when your house is on fire because they're going to show up and get shit wet. Like, sometimes you just have to fight fuck-ups with fuck-ups, okay? But whatever. So they decide they're not going to use the radio. They're going to use the signal lamp instead. So this poor, what I presume to be an 18-year-old kid that was probably in high school 6 months ago, climbs up on this signal lamp, probably having the worst panic attack of his entire life, knowing full well that if he messes this up, he very well may be partially responsible for killing the longest sitting president, both literally and figuratively, in American history. And the panic attack is starting to get the best of him, because he's up there like, 1 if I land, 2 if I see, how many fucking lanterns do I have to hang to signal, don't move, there's a torpedo coming at you? So the commander of the Willie D tells his kid, signal the Iowa, tell him there's a torpedo coming towards you. The kid sends a signal, the Iowa gets a signal, and it reads as, and I quote, there's a torpedo moving away from you. So now the Iowa's super confused. They signal back. They're like, what? So the commander of the Willie D tells this kid, fuck it, just signal the Iowa, tell him to back up. Kid sends a signal, the Iowa gets it, and it reads, and I quote, we're backing up, meaning the Willie D is backing up. So the Iowa's sitting there like, there's a torpedo moving away from us, and the Willie D is backing up. I think they're getting attacked by a submarine right now. So they signal back, where's the submarine? After hearing this, the commander of the Willie D finally comes to the realization that he would rather be the guy that broke radio silence than be the guy that killed the president of the United States. So he picks up the radio and calls over to the Iowa. He says something along the lines of Lion, which is the Iowa's code name. Emergency, torpedo in the water, turn right. The Iowa doesn't know who's talking to him, so they're like, say again, who is this? And he's like, it's the commander of the Willie D, fucking turn right or you're gonna get hit by a torpedo. So they bank right. At this point, all hell breaks loose on the USS Iowa because there's a torpedo coming towards them and they have the president on board. Everybody's running around like chickens with their heads cut off. At this point, FDR decides he's going to be a complete gangster, just straight up hold my blanket, orders his secret security guys to wheel him up to the railing because he wants to make eye contact with this torpedo as it shoots the USS Iowa. And in his own diary later on, he would go on to write about how he personally saw that torpedo miss by only 1,000 feet. So the torpedo missed, the crisis is averted, but the only problem is now Willie D is the only ship that knows what actually happened, and all the other ships are still looking for a submarine that attacked the USS Iowa. So the Willie D has to radio over and is like, yeah, that was us. Sorry. At which point, the USS Iowa takes all three of her turrets, 9 16-inch guns, and turns them and points them at the Willie D. The Willie D is then ordered to leave the group, sail back to Bermuda by themselves, where they're going to get investigated because they just tried to kill the president. And what happened next is kind of debated. One story goes that the Marine Corps boarded the Willie D and arrested the entire crew, making it the first and only time in U.S. naval history that an entire crew got arrested. Some people think that that didn't happen because it wasn't in the Willie D's official war diary, but you also have to remember that this was already a super secret mission, and this was fucking embarrassing. I mean, the government didn't release this to the public until the late 1950s after World War II, so it could have actually happened and the U.S. government covered it up because, you know, the U.S. government covers up all kinds of shit all the time. But what we do know for sure is that the chief torpedo man that failed to remove that third torpedo primer got sentenced to 14 years of hard labor, or at least that was until FDR decided to be a complete gangster yet again, because apparently he found the entire almost assassination attempt thing funny and decided to pardon him. So that was that. The president stepped in, said it was fine. Now the Willie D got sent over to the Northern Pacific. They had to make their way through the Panama Canal up the west coast. Now they're operating off the coast of Alaska and around the Aleutian Islands. They're there for about a year and everything goes great. They do a bunch of training, they go on a couple missions doing anti-submarine work, they do some shore bombardments, everything goes according to plan and it's perfect. Then they finally get the word that since they're performing so well, they're going to get sent over to the actual Pacific Theater and they're going to be fighting in the Philippines and eventually the Battle of Okinawa. Like, this is where the real fighting is going on, and these guys are pumped to be sent there. So, just to reiterate, like, they've done their time, they've put a lot of hard work in, they're starting to redeem themselves, they're getting another shot, and they're about to leave the Northern Pacific. What do you think they do? They throw a party, obviously. Break out the booze. We're going to have one big party before we actually go off to war. So, they all get hammered, and somebody has the bright idea, you know what we need? Some fireworks. Load a round in one of the 5-inch guns, we're going to fire it. And that's exactly what they do, and sure enough, that 5-inch shell makes its way to land, and not only does it hit land, it hits the military post that they were operating out of, and on that military post, it landed in the front yard of the commander's house while he was having a party full of all the other high-ranking officers. But this is also another event that wasn't documented in the official war diary, so it clearly could not have happened. Okay, I've said this once and I'll say it again. Just because something is not in the official log doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Anybody that's been in the military or worked a blue-collar job knows that whenever anything goes wrong, the first thing you do is look at the highest-ranking person there and say, can we fix this without having to tell the boss? And that's exactly what happens 100% of the time. And in this particular case, the commander that had a shell land in his front yard had two choices. He could A, pull their orders to go to the Pacific so that he could launch an investigation and try to get people in trouble. That's going to take 2 years of his time and cause him a huge headache and a bunch of paperwork. Or he he can just sweep it under the rug, pretend it didn't happen. Those guys already have orders to leave like this week, and they're just not going to be his problem anymore. What would you do in that situation? So the whole shooting a 5-inch naval gun into the commander's front yard deal gets swept under the rug, and the Willie D gets sent off to the Philippines to fight the war. And unfortunately for the crew of the Willie D, absolutely no one has forgotten the fact that they shot a torpedo at the president. Because every time the Willie D gets anywhere near another U.S. ship, they radio over and say, "Don't shoot for Republicans," you know, because FDR was a Democrat. But despite their past, and despite being made fun of, they actually start kicking ass. They get put on anti-kamikaze duty and start doing a really good job. They shoot down a bunch of would-be kamikazes. They send a lot of radio transmissions letting people know that kamikazes are inbound. They're really starting to turn it around. Fast forward to the Battle of Okinawa, one of the largest naval battles of World War II. I believe the largest amphibious landing in the Pacific Theater during World War II. And yes, the battle where the Yamato gets sunk. Is that relevant to the story in any way whatsoever? Absolutely not, but I'm going to bring up the Yamato being a coral reef every chance I get for the rest of my life. Sorry, Battle of Okinawa, Willie D's on anti-kamikaze duty, and sure enough, here comes a kamikaze. But unlike usual, it's not trying to fly past the Willie D to make it to the more valuable ships. No, this kamikaze is coming for them. Now, I've heard conflicting accounts as to what type of plane this kamikaze was. I've heard that it was either an Aichi-style dive bomber, commonly referred to as a VAL, or a Mitsubishi Zero. Now, I don't know why they called the dive bomber a VAL, but I believe they called the Mitsubishi a Zero because Zero was the numerical representation of how many times these planes made a successful landing on average. Either way, it's coming right for them, so they open fire with the anti-aircraft guns. They end up shooting the plane down right in front of them. The plane sinks underneath the water. The day is saved. Hooray. Or so they thought, because the kamikaze apparently hit the water at the angle it was diving at and then sank below the water and continued to glide until it got underneath the Willie D and then blew up, breaking the back of the entire ship and causing it to sink over the course of the next 3 hours. The entire crew was forced to evacuate. Thankfully, all of them made it out okay. All right, now let's recap, because everybody refers to this story as a story of the Willie D, the U.S. Navy's unluckiest ship. And it is. It was crewed by young men from the very beginning and experienced mishap after mishap, and would ultimately meet its demise after getting blown up by a plane that was underwater that it had already shot down. If that's not unlucky, I don't know what is. However, I would also like to put forward that this has probably been the story of the U.S. Navy's luckiest crew, because nobody else has done this much dumb shit and never had to face consequences for it. Leaving port for the first time, they backed into multiple other warships. Nobody cared. 24 hours into their first mission, they dropped a depth charge when they were supposed to be being quiet, and everybody seemingly forgot about it because it got overshadowed by the fact that they shot a torpedo at the President of the United States. Then, when they were about to face consequences for that, the President stepped in and pardoned them. Then, they went ahead and shot a 5-inch artillery shell into the front yard of a base commander's house while he was having a house party full of a bunch of other high-ranking military officials, meaning that that is now 2 almost accidental assassination attempts on high-ranking people in the span of a year, but that just got swept under the rug, no big deal. Then, when they finally get their shit together and start turning it around and being productive members of the military and start really kicking ass, what I can only describe as divine intervention steps in and blows up their entire ship with an underwater airplane that they had already shot down, and somehow all of them make it out completely okay. So in conclusion, I guess this has been the story of the unluckiest warship that was manned by the luckiest crew in U.S. naval history. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang, out.
My neck, my back, my legs are big, all that. My neck, my back, your thighs will be intact. My neck, your back, I smell so good, they ask.
You know what you call the only Type 9C German U-boat left in existence? America's. Today we're talking about the time that America stole an entire German submarine and then stuck it in the middle of Chicago. I mean, when America strategically transferred a piece of equipment to an alternate location. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Warwood Tools, a family-owned business that for over 160 years has been making sledgehammers and axes right out of West Virginia using American 1060 high-carbon steel. And to this day, they still make all their tools using World War II era drop hammer forging. So if you want some tools that are going to outlast you, I would recommend Warwood Tools, and I'll have them linked in the description down below. Moving on. Okay, important context in case you don't know. During World War II, American supply lines to the European theater were absolutely devastated by German U-boats, aka submarines. These German U-boats are credited with sinking over 2,700 American ships, totaling in over 14 million tons of American ships and supplies that were put at the bottom of the ocean. Because of this, America would form what is known as hunter-killer groups, task forces of American ships who were sent out, and their entire job was to hunt and destroy these enemy submarines. Because that's just how America gets down. We don't believe in self-defense, we believe in self-offense. It's way more efficient. And that's pretty much all the context you need. So, April 4th, 1944, a hunter-killer group known as Task Force 22.3 would set out, engage, and destroy the German U-boat 515. Absolutely everything went according to plan, nothing was out of the ordinary. They hit it with depth charges, critically wounding the submarine, forcing it to surface one last time to allow the crew to escape before the submarine would sink below the ocean waves forever. But it was on this particular day that the American commander Daniel Gallery would take unique notice of the fact that the German submarines always surfaced to allow their crew to escape. And he decided that he was going to do something unprecedented, something that no American sailor had done since 1815. He was going to send out a boarding party and steal that enemy submarine. He immediately puts a plan into action, assembling two separate boarding parties, each to be comprised of one officer and 8 enlisted men. And these 8 enlisted men are going to be the top 8 guys that you would absolutely want on hand to be able to address any problem that could arise with keeping this submarine from sinking to the ocean floor. People like the electrician, the machinist, the boatswain's mate, the torpedo technician, and the photographer. Yeah, one of the 8 people going on the extremely dangerous and important mission is going to be a photographer because, pics or it didn't happen, right? America's about to do some gangster shit. You best believe we're going to designate somebody to stand in the corner with the camera and yell "World Star" while we do it. June 1st, 1944, Task Force 22.3 receives intel that there's an enemy submarine operating off the coast of Africa. That submarine would turn out to be U-boat 505, and they would head to it immediately. And this poor U-boat has absolutely no idea what's coming for it, because at this point in time, this task force is comprised of the flagship and escort carrier, the USS Guadalcanal, as well as 5 destroyer escorts, the USS Pope, the Pillsbury, the Jinx, the Chatelaine, and the Flaherty. And if you don't know what a destroyer escort is, at this point in time, it is a ship that has one job and one job only, and that is to fuck up enemy submarines. Okay, this hunter-killer group was rolling up on this U-boat like Debo on a beach cruiser. Somebody's about to have a bad day, and it's probably not going to be them. June 4th, 1944, after 3 days of chasing down this U-boat, they would finally catch up to it, and the USS Guadalcanal would immediately scramble 2 Grumman F-4F Wildcat fighters as the rest of the destroyer escorts made their way towards the submarine. U-boat 505 was already submerged and underwater, but the Grumman F-4F Wildcat pilots are able to see the long dark shadow of the submarine underneath the water because it's broad daylight. And once they confirm that it is in fact an enemy submarine, the destroyer escorts begin loading their hedgehogs to fire upon it. If you don't know what a hedgehog is, it is the most feared anti-submarine weapon in all of World War II. It is like a fully automatic mortar capable of firing over a wide area. Once these mortars hit the water, they can plunge into the depths of the ocean at 33 feet per second. And as soon as they make impact with anything, they will explode and destroy it. The hedgehogs would detonate early, not scoring a direct hit, but still rocking and damaging the submarine, jamming its propeller, and putting out its lights. Quickly realizing they hadn't done enough damage, the destroyer escorts above would begin launching depth charges. The depth charges would rupture the hull of U-boat 505, and the entire submarine would be forced to surface one last time as the hatch would open, and all the German sailors would begin flooding out onto the deck and into life rafts. At this point, the American boarding party grabbed their Tommy guns, hopped in their whaling boat, and made their way over the submarine. They received no resistance from the Germans as they made their way down the hatch into the sub and began working on it to try to save it. Okay, time out. I need to make sure that you fully grasp how ridiculous what these 9 Americans are about to do actually is. Okay, you have a German U-boat that is so critically damaged that the 50 men that have been living on this U-boat, that have been trained on this U-boat, This U-boat has controls in their language and in their units of measurement. And they have decided cumulatively that, hey, this thing is so damaged that we need to run for our lives. And then, while they were evacuating, they would also place scuttling charges, which are large explosive devices that detonate, ensuring that the ship sinks so that America can't retrieve it. So not only is the situation so bad that 50 of them can't fix it, but they made the situation worse on their way out. And you now have 9 Americans, one of which is a fucking camera guy, going in there to do what they couldn't pull off. This mission is seemingly impossible and borderline insane, but they do it anyways because America. So they get inside the sub and begin going to work immediately. The torpedo technicians and ordnance officers begin defusing scuttling charges as the electricians go to work at trying to get the bilge pumps back up and running to pump water out of the submarine. And the damage control men and the machinists begin working on plugging holes and getting the motor back up and running. And while all of this is going on, the officer in charge of the American boarding party, Lieutenant Albert David, notices that the submarine is sinking so fast that there is now water pouring into the open hatch on top. And it is at this moment that he has to make a split decision. He either has to get his men out and save their lives, or he has to shut the hatch and give them more time to work. But if they can't pull it off, they are all going to die in that submarine. And without thinking twice, he closes the hatch. A few minutes later, the second boarding party would board U-boat 505, and they would attempt to open the hatch to get inside the submarine and help. But the sinking submarine had created such a powerful vacuum that it was impossible. So they did the next best thing. They got a tow line, tied the U-boat 505 to the USS Guadalcanal, as the USS Guadalcanal began towing the now sinking U-boat. Feeling that they were now moving, the Americans on the inside had an ingenious idea. You see, the U-boat didn't have enough power for anything but lights. They were running entirely on batteries. The reason they didn't have power is because the propeller was jammed, and the propeller was jammed because they couldn't get the motor going again. So what they did was they disconnected the drive shaft between the motor and the propeller, allowing the propeller to free spin in the current of the USS Guadalcanal as it's being towed. This would turn the alternator, generating power and giving the U-boat enough power to activate its bilge pumps and begin pumping water out of it. I cannot stress to you enough how fucking genius this was to do. This saved all of their lives for sure, and to be able to have the knowledge and wisdom to come up with a solution like that while you're actively fucking dying in a tin can under the ocean is incredible. So things are already looking up, but at a minimum, they have to get that hatch back open so that the first boarding crew can escape if they absolutely need to. So the second boarding crew, with their Tommy guns, proceeds to pluck one of the Germans out of their life raft and persuade him to activate the pressure valve, which is going to equalize the pressure inside and outside the sub, allowing them to open the hatch door. That happens, and the second boarding crew gets inside and also gets to work. And all this is going on, and there's 50 Germans sitting out there in life rafts like, fuck. Like, what do you do in that situation? You have just been outclassed on every conceivable level. Like, you were in combat, they damaged your ship to the point that you couldn't fix it. So then you tried to rage quit and blow up your own ship. And then they're like, no, I've changed my mind. And then they went in there and made it so you couldn't even sink your own ship. At this point, the rest of the task force goes around plucking all the Germans out of their life rafts because they are now prisoners of war. As Commander Gallery comes to the conclusion, fuck it, we're just going to have to tow this sinking submarine while it's actively sinking all the way to the nearest American port. And we're just going to have sailors in there working 24/7 around the clock to try to keep it above the water line. Not a terrible plan, but the only problem is they're like 150 miles off the coast of Africa, and the nearest American port is 2,500 miles away, and if that wasn't bad enough, it's in fucking Bermuda, where the whole triangle thing is. I mean, the disrespect with this is absolutely palpable. Could you imagine being one of these Germans sitting there like, not only are you not allowed to sink your own ship, you're not even allowed to rage quit. The Americans come in, steal your shit, and now they're gonna joyride it through the Bermuda Triangle and not even lose it just to flex on you like that? It's ridiculous. So they get everything buttoned up and they get underway, headed out to Bermuda. At which point, a couple days later, the commander of the German submarine wakes up in the infirmary on the USS Guadalcanal. Apparently, he had been hit in the head and lost consciousness for a number of days. At which point, Commander Gallery comes down to have a conversation with him, and he's like, hey, here's the deal. We stole your sub. We're towing it to the Bermuda Triangle for a joyride. It's going to be great. The German commander absolutely refuses to believe him. He's like, that's not possible. I had 50 dudes. They weren't able to save that sub. We scuttled it on the way out for insurance. There's no way that you managed to keep that sub from sinking. At which point, Commander Gallery is like, oh, well, here's all the shit from your office that's distinctly not waterlogged. Also, if you look out the window, we're towing your submarine behind us right now. At which point, the German officer completely loses his shit. He starts crying. He's completely inconsolable. He's like, when my chain of command finds out that this happened, they're going to torture me, and then they're going to kill me. or the other way around. I don't know. This is absolutely terrible. But Commander Gallery, being the cool guy that he is, he's like, hey, buddy, pal, friend, you're going to sit in a nice POW camp for the duration of the war. We're going to win, and by the time you get to go back home, you're not going to have a chain of command, and all of your leadership infrastructure is going to be completely dismantled. I wouldn't worry about it. Didn't really make him feel better, but I thought it was funny. Now, so they're still making their way towards that big triangle thing, but pulling this submarine and keeping it from taking on water is a constant struggle, and it's starting to look like they're not going to be able to keep enough water out of this submarine long enough to get it all the way to Bermuda. So, they start interviewing Germans, trying to find one with technical knowledge that would be willing to help them keep it afloat. And that is when they come across a young German sailor by the name of Felix Ewald, and he would inform them that not only is he not German, he's definitely not a Nazi, and he's certainly not a fan. He was conscripted when the Nazis invaded Poland, and he was basically being forced to be there, and that if America wanted help, he was happy to do so. So he would immediately go to work helping the Americans keep the submarine afloat the entire time as they traveled back to Bermuda. As the remaining German POWs began asking questions, what happened to Felix? What happened to Ewald? Where is Ewald? And they began looking for him every chance they got, searching everywhere they could find him. The Americans had told him that they killed him, but they didn't believe it because they knew he was Polish too. So they just kept looking and looking, scanning everywhere. And this would be the inspiration for the childhood book, Where's Waldo? I'm just kidding, I made that part up. Anyways, with the help of Felix, they managed to tow this submarine all the way to Bermuda. They get it fixed up, it's definitely not going to sink, at which point they get to go in and really start looking at what intel they had managed to gather. And holy shit, there is an up-to-date, active Enigma cipher machine on board. This is what the Germans were using to send all their secret military communications, and it could prove absolutely invaluable. They also had a bunch of up-to-date ciphers and a bunch of other documents that were deemed so important that they were printed on water-soluble paper, so that if the boat did sink and these documents got wet, they would completely disintegrate and be unrecoverable. It is at this point that the American leadership decides the Germans have to think that this boat went down and everyone died. We cannot let them know that we have this information, because now we're going to be able to decode all of their secret transmissions, and we don't want them to change the code. So they take U-Boat 505, they actually paint it to look like an American submarine, and then start referring to it as a USS Nemo, which if you don't know is Latin for no one. They then take all the German POWs from U-Boat 505, send them to Louisiana, where they are going to be completely segregated from all the other POWs, so nobody knows who they are or where they came from. All the American sailors are then ordered to turn over all of the souvenirs that they gathered out of U-Boat 505 and to shut the fuck up about it. And as far as anyone on the planet needs to be concerned, this U-boat is at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, 150 miles off the coast of Africa. Nobody can know that we have this. If those Germans weren't allowed to write home through the Red Cross, that's technically a Geneva Convention violation. First of all, when you're on the winning side, those aren't actually rules, they're more like suggestions.
The code is more what you call guidelines than actual rules.
Secondly, let's just be honest here. If you were a POW in World War II and the worst thing that happened to you was you weren't allowed to write home while you were being well-fed and treated with dignity, you came out on top. Alright, so somehow the United States manages to keep this thing a complete secret until May 7th, 1945, when Germany issues their unconditional surrender. And it is at this point that the smack talking can now commence, because now we are going to take this submarine, you know, the only remaining Type 9C German sub left on the planet, even though they manufactured hundreds, we sunk all of them, except for this one. Now we're going to drive that bitch to Philadelphia and use it to raise funds, and anybody that buys a bunch of war bonds can get a guided tour of this German sub, because a lot of people quit buying war bonds after Germany surrendered because they thought the war was coming to an end and we were still fighting the war in the Pacific against the Japanese, so this was like a huge fundraising opportunity, and that's exactly what they did. They sold a ton of war bonds. As soon as that started slowing down, hey, we'll tow it to another major U.S. city. They towed it up to New York. Then New York bought a bunch of war bonds. And then World War II would finally come to an end when Japan issued their unconditional surrender, and now we've got this German submarine, and we don't know what to do with it. So the U.S. government does what the U.S. government do, and they're like, hear me out, what if we shot nuclear bombs at it for science? At which point, Commander Gallery, who's now an admiral, chimes in and is like, no, I stole that thing fair and square, we're keeping it. So he ends up orchestrating a deal with the city of Chicago where the U.S. government will donate the submarine to the city of Chicago as long as the city pays to have it shipped all the way there. And that's exactly what happens. They took a Type 9C German submarine, the whole thing, in one piece, and put it in Chicago. You know, like the major city that's the most inland of any other city in America. It's literally fucking 2 Germanys into America. Yes, that is to scale. An incredible logistical feat is the icing on the cake for one of the most amazing and utterly disrespectful stories to ever come out of World War II. And I'm happy to say that if you would ever like to go see U-Boat 505, you still can, because it is still in Chicago today at the Museum of Science and Industry, where it currently sits as a proud member of the second largest navy on the planet, America's fleet of museum ships. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
On June 19th, the U-505 was towed into Bermuda, and there remained as a prize of war. One less wolf to hunt with the pack.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? The lightweight moisturization of Old Spice lotion is like treating your skin to a glamorous vacation in Fiji. Did you know my skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart.
My name's Sean Ryan. I was a Navy SEAL for 5.5 years. This is everything I'm authorized to tell you. You know you're going to be cold, you know you're going to get hypothermia, but at the end of the day, going to BUD/S is basically like getting kicked in the nuts. And so how do you get prepared for getting kicked in the nuts? You don't. You just take it. How do we keep each other in line? A lot of hazing. You have a tremendous responsibility being a member of a SEAL team, whether you're the communications guy or you're the lead sniper, you might be the guy planning the mission, you might be the point man. And so there is no room for jackassery, and if you're not doing your job to the best of your ability and you're clowning around, then you're going to get tuned up and maybe kicked off the team. And so it is it's very much a work hard, play hard environment, but if you can't play hard and work hard the next morning, you're not going to make it. When you're in the SEAL team, you are closer with your immediate teammates, your platoon mates, than you are with your own family. And so you eat with them, you sleep with them, you hang out with them, you party with them, you grieve with them. I mean, that is your family. And so you become inseparable. Home on my off time as a SEAL was a lot of happy hours and a lot of ladies' nights and chasing women and drinking booze and probably a bar fight or two. On deployment, an off day looks like a really good workout in the gym and a lot of Xbox. A lot of people pose as a SEAL. I've seen it happen a lot. This is 20 years ago. We would have the support guys going out in town and bragging to everybody that they are a SEAL and SEAL Team 8 or SEAL Team 2. And they would go to those specific bars where SEALs hang out. When those bars are empty, that way none of us were in there catching them doing it. But unfortunately, we know the bar staff, we know people that work there. And so that word will get around, and a lot of times they would wind up taped to the flagpole naked when everybody shows up to work the next morning. The number one unspoken rule for the SEAL teams was work hard, play hard. As long as you could show up to work, ready to go, pristine condition, and be able to perform, they did not care how hard you played. Some of the jobs I had as a SEAL was, one, I was a point man. Basically, a point man is the point guy when you're doing an infill, entering into a target. You're the navigator, navigating your route in, how you're going to get in, how you're going to get out, how you're going to lead your entire team in. My first mission as a SEAL was to go to Haiti in 2004. There was a lot of civil unrest going on all over Haiti. We staged out of Guantanamo Bay, and basically what we would do is we would fly over on a helicopter, every morning and do reconnaissance in all these different towns and villages to report back about the civil unrest. We had prisoners breaking out of prison. That was just complete chaos all over Haiti, bodies all over on the beach. But it was just a reconnaissance mission. I felt good. Wasn't enough action for me. It made me really hungry for more. I wanted to go to the Middle East. The hairiest mission I've been on was when we went to Baghdad, and this was at SEAL Team 2. There was an election going on, and we had a badass lieutenant who started farming us out to conventional units who were having problems. We would find units that were getting blown up by IEDs or being ambushed on roads. Terrorists would set up roadside bombs, set up ambushes, and they would just blow these vehicles, kill our guys, time and time again. We would go to these conventional units for a couple of weeks, training them up, and then we would actually take them on a real world mission with us. And every time we went out, we would kill the guys that were killing them within a 24-hour time frame. I wasn't actually a schoolhouse trained sniper. I was just really good at it. And so when we did all these sniper missions, I was basically aiding the lead sniper and teaching the conventional guys how we do business. It was one of the biggest responsibilities I've held. There was a very small village outside of Taji that was considered black. And so what black means is no U.S. troops or personnel are allowed to drive through, walk through, fly over. You basically just stay completely out of the town because it's so dangerous. This one was out in basically farm fields. And so we took 4 teams and 4 teams of 2 to 3 guys each, and we set them up along this road. So towns here, black town. My OP was the first one right outside of the black town, so it was the most dangerous spot to be in. And then we had our command and control type observation point kind of hidden back in the rear where they could do comms. And about halfway through the day, we got compromised. We were in weeds that were probably about chest high, and so I padded down this little hallway, and I was laying in the grass looking at the town like I should have been, probably about 30 meters off the road, and I saw a man walk right by me out of my peripheral, and I noticed when he walked by me, he noticed me. I could see him looking off the side of his eyes through his peripheral. I thought, maybe I'm supposed to kill this individual. He's going into a black town. I wanted to pull us out. I wanted to do an emergency extract because I had compromised the team. The rest of the sniper OPs decided they wanted to stay. They wanted to see how things went. 10 minutes later, we got mortared. Probably 4 to 5 different impacts right on top of us. I wanted to emergency extract again because I knew the next thing that was probably going to come was the fighting age males in the village would have walked online through the field and just killed all of us. The next thing that the search party did come, but it came with vehicles. We were so well hidden that goats were actually eating vegetation out of our ghillie suits with goat herders seeing us. And so everybody was scared to move when that was happening because you didn't want to alarm one of the goats, and one goat goes crazy, then the whole herd goes crazy, then the goat herder knows something's going on. So we didn't move. A couple of goat herders passed. What we noticed was 5 guys coming out of the village, the black village, carrying AK-47s, carrying 105 rounds, carrying wire, shovels, everything you need to basically make an IED explosive. So they walked right past me, and we radioed to the rest of the team that these guys were coming their way, but nobody answered our radio.
Dear Queen, accept these gifts as a sign of my loyalty. Oh, Queen, take this symbol of my loyalty.
They started digging. They planted the bomb. All I heard was just shots over and over and over and over. It sounded like a gunfight. It sounded like the bad guys were, the terrorists were my guys, because all of us were suppressed, meaning quieter shots, no muzzle flash. It seemed like forever, but it was probably less than a minute. And we kept calling our guys, hey, what's going on? Hey, what happened? What happened out there? Is anybody out? You guys alive? Give me a head count. Nothing. In my head, I knew everybody was dead. And so it was me and two other guys, and we just got back to back. And we said, all right, this is it. We're just going to take as many of these people out as we can before they get us. First thing we hear come over the radio, maybe 5-10 minutes later, is, holy shit, we just killed the f*** out of those guys. They let the Army guys take the shots. They were not suppressed. So I thought their gunshots were the enemy's gunshots, but it was the Army guys, unsuppressed, shooting alongside with our snipers who were suppressed. You know, hearing my guy come out saying that they had just killed those guys was one of the best sounding voices I've ever heard in my life, knowing that my guys were still alive and that we had defeated the enemy. SEALs use a lot of weapons. We use 300 Win Mag sniper rifle. We use a 50 caliber sniper rifle. We use a 7.62 sniper rifle. We use a 5.56 sniper rifle. We have M60 machine guns. We have Mark 48 machine guns. We have Mark 46 machine guns. We have Mark 19 grenade launchers. We have M203 grenade launchers. We have 50 cal machine guns. We have mini guns. We have pretty much anything you can think of that fires a bullet. The main weapon I used was a M4 10-inch barrel with a Night Force suppressor, and secondary was a P226. Well, suppressor is not a silencer. A lot of people think it's a silencer. It does dub the noise down a lot. You don't need to wear ear protection when you're shooting with a suppressor, but it's not like what you see on the movies where it sounds like a sewing machine. The main point of a suppressor is to suppress the flash that comes out of the end of the muzzle, whether it be pistol or rifle, because if you're shooting at night and you're in a combat scenario, every time you fire that weapon unsuppressed, it's going to leave a signature. The enemy combatants will wait for that flash, and then they'll aim at where the flash came from. So if you have a suppressor and you're on night vision, then they can't tell where the shots came from, so they don't have anything to actually shoot at. Most fun to fire was definitely the Carl Gustav rocket launcher. I can't remember the exact millimeter of the rocket, but it is about this long, packed full of high explosives, and they will take just about anything out that you pointed at. So one thing that we would use them a lot for are terrorists hiding in caves. It's good to be familiar with as many weapon systems as you possibly can be. Two, we were in the Middle East, and that's the type of weapons that the terrorists were using, and so we trained on all the Soviet-style weapons as well, which are what the enemy combatant, the terrorists, were using at the time. You might be dressed up like a local or somebody from Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, Pakistan, wherever you're operating, Syria. You might be dressed up in the local garments. And what does everybody have there? An AK-47. So you could be undercover, and that's the reason you need to be familiar with it. You might run out of ammo on a direct action or some type of a raid where you have to pick up an enemy combatant's weapon and be very familiar with that to continue on with the mission. When you see SEALs in the back of a old Toyota Hilux truck, a lot of times what that is those are many times up armored, but they blend in with the local vehicles as well. So you can't get Hiluxes here in the United States, but everywhere else in the world is running around with diesel Toyota Hiluxes, especially in the Middle East. A lot of times we're attached to some type of a partner force, whether that be a force of Afghan commandos or Iraqi commandos or wherever you're at. a lot of times in special operations, you're going to be attached to a partner force. And those partner forces use Toyota Hiluxes. If you're in a 100 vehicle convoy with a partner force and there's only 4 vehicles that actually have SEALs in them and the rest of them is a partner force, you don't want to be the guys that are standing out, because if you do get ambushed, it's going to be a dead giveaway. You don't want to make yourself a higher profile target than anybody else on the battlefield. We did a course that was actually put on by the British MI6. We were actually going to go into Eastern Europe, Eastern Bloc countries in Europe, and hunt down warlords and people that have committed war crimes. They put us through a course that taught us how to break into cars, how to hotwire cars, how to blend in, how to surveil somebody on foot, how to surveil somebody on in a vehicle, how to surveil somebody in a boat, how to follow them into 50-story buildings, and blend in every type of environment that you can think of and be actually comfortable doing it. I would say the most important piece of equipment that you need in combat is a radio, because radio gets you out of there, it gets you in there, it's your communications, and it is actually the biggest gun on the team, because you're calling in the biggest guns. You're calling in A-10s, you're calling in fast movers, you're calling in Apaches, you're calling in Spectre gunship. So I would say that the radio is by far the most critical piece of equipment for a mission. I grew up in a small town in Missouri, about 6,000 people. I was a disturber, troublemaker. I liked to party, I liked to raise hell, but it was a good childhood. I had a really good childhood, very close with my family, my brother and sister. I tried to go into the Marine Corps first, but they wouldn't let me in to go force reconnaissance at the time. They told me I had to go infantry. Then I went to the Army, told them I wanted to be a Green Beret. They kind of laughed me out of the office. I didn't even know what a Navy SEAL was at the time, and the Navy recruiter stuck his head out and was basically said, "Hey, have you ever thought about the SEAL teams?" And gave me a pamphlet. So I went home and went to the library, checked out every book I could possibly find on special operations and Navy SEALs, watched all the documentaries on National Geographic and Discovery, and decided that that's what I was going to do. I wrestled in high school. I wanted to do the most grueling thing I could possibly do in the small town that I grew up in, which was wrestling. So I cut a lot of weight, did a lot of running, really had to work on my swimming. That was the biggest challenge for me, was the swimming. And so I did a lot of laps in the pool. You can't prepare for it mentally. A lot of people never believed that I could make it. I wasn't a superstar athlete. I really wasn't much of an athlete at all. I didn't make good grades. I wasn't the most popular kid in school by any means. And so I think a lot of people thought that I would just go and fail. The only reason I didn't quit is because I didn't want to disappoint my old man, and that's because I felt like I had disappointed him a lot as a child. And I wanted to prove to him that there was more than what he saw for the previous 18 years. BUDS is the very, very beginning of the pipeline to becoming a Navy SEAL. BUDS stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. They want to know how tough you are. They want to know what you can take. They want to know that you are a team player. They want to know what your physical endurance is like, what your mental toughness is like. And I knew it was going to be tough. I didn't know it was going to be that tough. First phase is very structured. Usually a wake up. You will have some sort of a PT event, meaning you're either going to do a 4-mile timed run or a 2 nautical mile swim, or you're going to do an O course, or you may go to the pool and do a pool workout. But you always start off with some type of a physical exercise. Then you'll be getting your ass kicked on the grinder by the instructors with calisthenics, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, flutter kicks, getting sprayed with the hose, getting sand kicked on you. Nice little wake up in the morning, and then that will filter into more beatings until lunch. At lunch, you probably get about 30 minutes. You run back from lunch, it's about a mile and a half to and from lunch. You run everywhere. And then beatings commence after lunch, well into the evening. Usually you're done by about 9 o'clock at night. You'll probably do some type of rock portage. Those are the little boats that you see out there, those rubber boats with the guys with the paddles and the life jackets, and they have to land those boats on the rocks with the surf. Sometimes the surf can get up to 12, 15-foot swells, and so it makes for a very challenging experience. Hell Week is famously known as the most grueling week of SEAL training. It's 5 days, 5 nights, no sleep. Maybe you might get a little nap here and there, but you are constantly moving. You are constantly in the water. You're freezing your ass off, fighting hypothermia. I believe the water there is a brisk 58 degrees. I was so miserable when I was on Hell Week that I almost quit. My buddy slapped me in the face and told me, there's no way you're leaving us here. What you don't see on TV and in the documentaries and everything is, like I said, you're constantly wet. You're constantly sandy because 90% of the course takes place on the beach. And so the instructor staff, they know that sand gets into every crevice of your body. And they take advantage of that. So they might have you do a 5-mile run after you go get wet and sandy, and that rubs all the skin off your crotch, off your armpits, any skin that's rubbing together, it's going to be wrong. Then when that dries, they have you hit the surf and get back in the salt water, which is like dumping hydrochloric acid on your skin, and it's just a constant vicious cycle of doing that over and over and over and over. Everybody that quits has to ring the bell. It's a very humiliating experience. You have to ring the bell in front of your entire class. Most classes, at least what I went through, were right around 200 to 250 people, and then place your helmet in a line right under the bell. So after Hell Week, you will just see a line of 100 plus helmets all under that bell. The first time I heard that bell, I was thinking, I hope to God that's not me one day. I did not want to disappoint my father and call him, letting him know that I had quit and didn't have what it took. And once I got that in my head, it never crossed my mind again. They just want to see that you can overcome just about anything. But it's not near as grueling as getting shot in combat or having a limb blown off or something like that. And they want to know that you're going to fight through and still be with the team and not give up. When Hell Week's finished, it's one of the best feelings in the world. They bring the American flag out. It's a big ceremony. You haven't slept in 5 days. And they basically just give you a big congratulations for completing the toughest military training in the world. And then they offer you a pizza. Then there's phase 2, which is dive phase. And that is learning how to do scuba. That's learning closed circuit breathing. Apparatuses known as a Draeger. The first thing you do is you go through dive physics and dive medical so that you actually understand dive medicine and how deep you can go for how long, things like that. Then once you pass that, then you move into open circuit, which would be what most people consider or call scuba diving. It's called pool comp. It's the last big obstacle that gets people kicked out, that they can't pass. It starts with very, very minimal tasks. It might be just, hey, put your tanks on underwater. And then it's, all right, your tanks are malfunctioning, you need to take them off, figure out what's going on. All the way up to be fully jobbed up with all your dive equipment, minus fins, and you'll just be crawling on the bottom of the pool. And then a group of instructors will come down, they'll give you what they call a surf hit, which is basically beating the shit out of you underwater. They'll punch your gut, make sure your air is gone, tie your hoses up so you can't breathe out of your breathing apparatus. They'll tie that in knots. They will make your tanks malfunction, turn your air off. Basically what they do is create mass confusion and take all of your air away. And what they want to see is that you can remain calm. You're not going to jet to the surface for air. Get your dive rig back to a functioning way and continue on that track. There's no secret to staying calm down there. You have no air. You just got the shit knocked out of you. You can't figure out what's wrong. You have water in your eyes. I mean, you can't really see. And but you know, it's not supposed to be easy. Open water is a whole new ball game. 9 times out of 10, if we're diving under a ship to plant a bomb, and then we're kicking back out. Sometimes this can be 8-hour excursions, you know. And so they want to see that you're comfortable underwater and that you can handle yourself, and not only yourself, your buddy. You're not diving the coral reef down in Key West. You are diving San Diego Bay, ships, sharks, seals, dolphins that are trained to kill you. So in the early 2000s, the Navy developed the mammal program. And what they were doing, where they were training dolphins and seals, the animal, not the special ops. They were training seals and dolphins on anti-swimmers, and I believe it was explosive detection. And so they would train these animals, and then they would send them out, and the dolphins would obviously use their sonar to find enemy combatants that were trying to plant bombs on ships. So, as a Bud student, guess who the test dummies are? Fortunately, I did not have that experience, but I did wind up in the mammal cages by accident. The only way you know where you're going is you memorize your bearing. You look at your compass, you hit your bearing, and you count your kicks. So my kick count was 66 kicks, was 100 yards. It was about a 6-hour dive, I believe, and my kick count was a little off because of the current. I had the wrong bearing next to the pier that you're diving off of for buds. Just so happens to be the mammal program. And so if you look at the top of the water, it is chain link fence, so you'd think that goes all the way down to the bottom. Well, it doesn't. It's more like a cargo net under the water, and they kept saying, Dive Bear 23, you are entering the mammal cages. And I remember looking at my buddy like, idiots, they're gonna go in the mammal cages. And they kept saying it. I was the lead navigator, and we were completely what appeared to be inside the mammal cages. I looked up, I saw the cargo net, it was going over my wetsuit hood, that's why I didn't feel it, all the way behind us. So when we looked up, we thought we were inside the mammal cages, and kicked like hell to get the hell out of there. Turned out that the net was just draped over the top of us, and we were Dive Bear 23. So everybody hits a low point. And so when you have a good guy, a good teammate that puts out, that cares about the rest of the team, when he hits that low point, the rest of the team will help encourage him to get his spirits back up, not to quit, and let him know that, you know, the rest of the team's depending on him. My favorite part was the land warfare phase, which is demolition, firearms, land navigation, basically your land warfare phase. They start to treat you like an actual human being again. And the beatings become less and less. You're learning land navigation, you're learning pistols, you're learning how to shoot rifles, you're learning how to shoot submachine guns, and the best part of all is learning demolition. You didn't learn how to use C4, TNT, Bangalore torpedoes, data sheet, you name the explosive, we use it. You're blowing up cars, you're blowing up buildings, learning precision demolition, you're blowing things up in the water, like obstacles that they'll put out into the ocean. You'll dive down, plant a haversack on them, and blow it right there in place. I love to blow shit up. The first weapon I trained on was a Sig Sauer P226 9mm handgun. I think they start with the handgun because the handgun is the most challenging weapon to master in firearms. And when once you have the fundamentals of handgun shooting down, then all the other kind of shooting just with all the other platforms just kind of falls into place. SEALs are such good shots because we train. It gets ingrained in you, and so even in buds, you're going to spend a week to 2 weeks of dry firing. What I mean by dry firing is no bullets, no nothing, you're just your weapon. And so you come out just like you're shooting just like you're shooting for real with real bullets, but you get your form down. They just want all the motions, all the grips, everything, sight alignment, grip, the way you hold it, the way you present your pistol, everything has to be perfect. And then by the time that you put a real bullet in that weapon, it goes right where it needs to go. And then you'll do the same thing with rifle. You'll take your M4, start shooting, dry firing for a week, maybe 2 weeks, before a live round ever leaves that barrel. You'll know exactly what you're doing. I love the SEALs for a multitude of reasons. I didn't get enough action. I was very, very gung-ho about going to war. Did the Haiti thing, then we went to Germany, then we went to Afghanistan, did a little bit in Afghanistan, did a lot in Iraq, but I didn't want to do another 6 years for a very small portion of it to be in combat. I saw what 20 plus years will do to somebody, to their body, to their home life. Pretty much everybody I know was divorced or has been divorced or was getting a divorce. A lot of them didn't know their kids very good. Your platoon, your teammates are your primary family, and the families are the secondary. And I knew that if I stayed in at the rate I was going, that I was going to be a very lonely person come retirement. I wanted to try business. I became a real estate agent and failed miserably at it, and got into a fire academy. I found out that I wasn't going to have a guaranteed job, and that it would likely take about 2.5 years before I did get a full-time job as a firefighter. I didn't have time. I don't have 2.5 years to wait around. A friend of mine gave me a call and told me that he wanted me to try out for this contracting program. He said this is a black program. I can't tell you who we're actually working for, but I can assure you that everybody who's in this program or even gets a chance to try out for this program has to have had a special ops background. And about 6 months later, I got a call to show up at a specific location, what kind of gear I needed, and that I was going to be a tryout. And so I went, I did the tryout. It took about a month. When we finished the tryout, they had told us that the client that we were going to be working for was Central Intelligence Agency. Pay was astronomically higher. It was probably 4 to 5 times higher than I was making as a SEAL. The deployment cycle as a contractor is kind of on you. I liked to do 60 days on, 60 days off. At the end, I was doing 45 days on, 45 days off. Some guys like to do 90, 120 days out, 1 week back. It's kind of all up to you and how much you want to give them and how much you want to give your family. When I left the agency, I started a tactical training company. It grew very fast. Got to train Keanu Reeves for John Wick 3. That was pretty much the height of it. Then I got really tired of it. After doing the job for real for 14 years, give or take a little bit, I had grown a pretty successful YouTube channel from the tactics training videos that I would put out. And so I decided that I wanted to document history from the people who were there, the way it actually happened. So I started the Sean Ryan Show for a couple of reasons. I really got tired of watching the mainstream media talk about all the events that I was a part of or that my colleagues were a part of. It was always somebody that had never been there. And veterans didn't have a voice, and I wanted to bring that out and talk to guys like myself who had been through that and how they got out of it. So everybody that I brought on at the beginning had found some type of success through entrepreneurship and had been through the low points, the addictions, to adrenaline, to substance abuse, to broken families, to suicide attempts.
My Capital team made it easy to redeem your credit card rewards in stores like REI. We built an API that is serverless, scalable, and reusable.
Really? Want to test the waters?
Well, the whole tracking thing is still in alpha. That's technology at Capital One.
You have been in a fight or flight state for as long as your career was, basically. More adrenaline dumps than anybody else you could possibly imagine. Multiple adrenaline dumps a day. That's a lot of chemicals, being released into your brain. It becomes an addiction, an addiction for adrenaline. My coping mechanisms were finding new ways to get an adrenaline release. Lots and lots of sleep meds, everything from Ambien, Valium, Xanax, lorazepam, anything I could get my hands on, opiates, hydrocodone, tramadol, you name it, I'll take it. I moved out of the country to Colombia, South America. I lived in Medellin for quite a while, and I got really into cocaine and started going into the worst neighborhoods I could find in Colombia to find where to buy cocaine from. And when that got boring, then I would go to another country and I would start doing it there. At the worst point in my life, I was drinking 2/5 of vodka a day. I would wake up and have about 1/5 of vodka in mini bottles that would be everywhere, all over my house, in my car, in my bedroom, everywhere. And then at night after dinner, I would just crack open 1/5 out of the freezer and start going to town on that. Wash down my pills to go to sleep, which by the end of it, they didn't even really put me to sleep. And then I would wake up with a nice pick-me-up of Adderall or some other type of stimulant to keep me going, and it just became this vicious cycle for years and years and years. When you are still, there's not much support. It's not something that they like to address. They don't want to bring any light to that. It makes the units look bad, and so a lot of them pretend like it's never happening. Nobody wanted to go to medical because everybody wanted to go on the mission. And so if you went to medical, everybody was scared that it might be some type of chronic illness or injury that would take them off the mission. So a lot of guys would hide it. They had a hernia that I got in basic training, and I refused to tell them all the way through because I was scared that they were going to pull my SEAL contract out from under me. So I went all the way through basic training with a bulging hernia in my groin, and finally told them when I was done. I've had multiple concussions from explosions, from being blown up, blowing cars up, shooting huge rocket launchers like Carl Gustav's, falling out of helicopters. I don't even know how high we were because it was dark, and I missed the rope. Fell out of the helo, but it was 50 feet or less. A lot of wear and tear from humping the mountains of Afghanistan, a lot of wear and tear from buds, major back issues, those kind of things. I've never been shot. A lot of us have the same injuries and the same symptoms, and deal with PTSD and deal with traumatic brain injury and stuff like that. And when you get out, though, there are a lot of resources. Not very many government resources. The government doesn't do a very good job at treating these things. It's a dark time for a lot of guys, especially when they get out. We're not used to slow-paced environments. We're not used to not having adrenaline dumps. We're not used to integrating into a civilian environment, and we're not used to having to deal with feelings. You have a mission to do. That's the only reason you're there. And so when you get out and you have to learn patience. I guess I'll say that. And a lot of guys don't have very good patience when they get out. But what there are is a lot of veterans out there who have started nonprofits, and the focus of the nonprofit is what worked for them, whether that's group therapy or psychedelic therapy or going to hyperbaric chambers to try to repair your brain health. I did 2 different psychedelics. There was, first one was Ibogaine, which is about a 12-hour experience. It's like watching your entire life through a different perspective. And then you do what they call 5-MeO DMT. It's basically an ego death. And it is a death experience. It was the most intuitive experience that I've ever had. And when I came out of the death experience and experienced the bliss, I could feel and see a flow of energy coming from the ocean onto the shore, into the grass, up the trees. And for the first time in my life, I've realized that everything is connected and everything is one. It was really intense. I came back. I didn't need any of my meds anymore. I quit drinking. I'm sober 2.5 years. I quit smoking cannabis. I quit a lot of things. And I was present with my family. It brings hope to all the guys that are getting out that hear this. They hear the low points that these guys, including myself, went through. And they realize it's not impossible. It gives them hope.
I'm a producer on Authorized Account. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and comment below with more topics you'd like to see us cover.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
All right, man.
How's it going? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
I really enjoy your show. It's very different. Like I was like when I first started watching, I was like, oh, this guy's fucking interviewing all kinds of crazy people. Like I'm like you're like a Navy SEAL Art Bell. It's kind of cool, man. You know, like you go out there with people like that one dude that was saying there's direct energy weapons in Antarctica.
Yeah.
You're letting that guy go out. He's going out on a long ass pier.
Oh yeah. Eric Hacker.
All those stories are so crazy. I was just finishing. Is it John Alexander? Is
Yeah.
that the gentleman that worked with UAPs and unidentified phenomenon and
He's done it
mysteries?
all. He's done it all.
Fascinating. All the way back to Vietnam, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That guy, what a crazy story, man. You imagine being involved in that kind of shit?
I don't know.
How
Yeah.
much do you believe it, though? Like, it's like, when I hear the UFO stuff, there's a part of my brain that's like, don't get suckered into this. This shit's nonsense. There's something that, it just feels like something. Like, if they told me a super volcano was going to erupt, I would believe it. 'Cause super volcanoes are definitely real. There's a historical precedent. They've ruined civilizations. They tell me that there's UFOs, and part of me is just like, I don't fucking believe you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I mean, you know what bothers me about the whole camp is none of these camps like talk to each other.
Right.
It's my camp knows everything.
Isn't that always the case, though? That's
Yeah,
the case in the military often,
Oh
right?
yeah, I was gonna compare it to special ops. But that guy doesn't know shit. I know it. That's kind of how.
When I was really young, I was like 24, I was dating this girl that was, she did something in government. She was explaining to me, so this is pre-internet-ish, like people didn't have the internet then. It's like, early 90s, right? She said that she one of her jobs was to make sure that information that the Navy had received would be available to the Army. So, like, you have to make sure people aren't running redundant tests. Like, we already did this, we'll get you this information. So there was, like, some sort of a database in, like, these computer terminals where she could share information. And she had some sort of top clearance. And one day, like, just fucking around, she wrote Little Green Men in the search function. And her computer got shut down, and then people visited her. And they asked her, like, what are you doing? Like, why did you look this up? Like, what is this all about? And I think she wound up either getting fired or transferred to some other position or lost whatever clearance that she had.
Interesting. But I've not heard that one.
When I was young, I was like, whoa, aliens were real. But as an older man, now looking back on it, I go, well, maybe what she was doing was inappropriate for her job. Like, maybe what she was doing was demonstrating that she couldn't be trusted because she's doing something that's not, there was no request to look up Little Green Men. Yeah. It was like, she did it on her own. Like,
Is this 100% factual?
Hard to tell.
You know, it's
Hard
just,
to tell.
it's,
Because it was a girl I dated. I don't really know.
oh, you dated her?
Yeah, I dated her. Yeah. This is, yeah, like I said, early 90s, I was living in New York. I had actually dated her in Boston, then we met up again in New York a couple of years later. So she was telling me about her job, and she was telling me, check this out.
I shouldn't be telling you this, but
Back then I was all in on UFOs. I was like, wow, UFOs are real. But as an older man, I look back and go, well, if you have some kid, you know, that she was basically my age, she's probably 24 as well, and you're having this kid work in these terminals that has access to top secret information and they have clearance, I would say, hey, maybe you shouldn't be just looking up shit randomly.
yeah.
You know, like, we can't have this kid. We can't trust this kid.
You know, it doesn't seem like everything's so compartmentalized in government, and especially at that kind of classified, whatever, security clearance level. I mean, there's whatever. I didn't get that high up, but I've not seen like a database where you can just look anything up. Like, oh shit, who killed up JFK?
Right.
Let's look that up real quick. You know, it's.
Well, you know what Trump said about that one, right?
What did he say?
Trump said that if they showed you what they showed me, you wouldn't want to release it either.
Oh yeah, I did hear that.
Crazy. What a crazy thing to say.
Yeah,
That can only mean one thing, in my eyes.
yeah.
The only thing that makes any sense is the United States did it.
I mean, more and more just keeps unraveling. You know?
Tucker just comes out and says it openly. Just says it openly.
Yeah.
CIA killed Kennedy. He has a crazy laugh. I don't know who could actually say it other than the people that have read those papers. You know, well, who knows what they would, you know, the president is basically a part-time employee. Not a part-time employee, but a short-term employee. You know, if you got a long-running business, and for some technicality, every now and then you have to bring in some fucking CEO, and he does a 4-year term, and then hopefully you can finagle it so he gets another 4-year term if he's playing by the rules. And you just bring him in.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, why would you tell that guy who killed Kennedy?
Yeah.
They get shit from him all the time. Which is totally illegal.
What do you think about RFK's, you know, possibly getting in to investigate all that?
I think it would be one of the best things for the health of the people in the United States. If you really care about health, I think there's a lot of us, and it was me at one point in time, and I've gotten more educated about it. A lot of us are very ignorant about what we're doing to our bodies with food and medications.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're being told the truth. And I think there's a reason why other countries, multiple other countries, have banned food elements, food like ingredients that we use all the time. These red dyes, all these different things. And this was all, there was just a recent thing that they did. Who's involved in that? Brigham testified in that. This episode is brought to you by the Farmer's Dog. Dogs are amazing. They're loyal. They're lovable. Like, just having Marshall around can make my day 10 times better. And I'm sure you love your dog just as much, and you want to do your best to help them live longer, healthier, happier lives. And a healthy life for your dog starts with healthy food, just like it does for us. there's a reason having a balanced diet is so important. So how do you know if your dog's food is as healthy and as safe as it can be? Well, Farmer's Dog gives you that peace of mind by making fresh, real food developed by board-certified nutritionists to provide all the nutrients your dog needs. And their food is human grade, which means it's made to the same quality and safety standards as human food. Very few pet foods are made to this strict standard. And let's be clear, human grade food doesn't mean the food is fancy. It just means it's safe and healthy. It's simple, real food from people who care about what goes into your dog's body. The Farmer's Dog makes it easy to help your dog live a long, healthy life by sending you fresh food that's pre-portioned just for your dog's needs. Because every dog is different. And I'm not just talking about breeds. From their size, to their personality, to their health, every dog is unique. Plus, precise portions can help keep your dog at an ideal weight, which is one of the proven predictors of a long life. Look, no one, dog or human, should be eating highly processed foods for every meal. It doesn't matter how old your dog is. It's always a great time to start investing in their health and happiness. So, try the Farmer's Dog today. You can get 50% off your first box of fresh, healthy food at thefarmersdog.com/Rogan. Plus, you get free shipping. Just go to thefarmersdog.com/Rogan. Tap the banner or visit this episode's page to learn more. Offer applicable for new customers only. They had all these health experts testify, and they were all hammering this point over and over again. They were talking about the food additives. They were talking about glyphosate and how fucking dangerous glyphosate is, and like an enormous percentage of people show traces of glyphosate in their blood. We're getting it through all kinds of vegetables. It's ubiquitously sprayed on monocrop agriculture crops. We're all just consuming these poisons. There's no reason to have fluoride in the water. There's fucking no reason. We've been putting fluoride in the water. Oh, keep your teeth clean. You don't want cavities. It doesn't make any sense. And we've been doing it forever. And there's no reason to do it. And there's like real data that shows that high levels of fluoride in water lowers IQ. The higher the fluoride is in water in certain areas, they can see a measurable dip in people's IQs.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Have you messed around with the? Have you heard the Yuka app?
No.
Dude, you got to get the Yuka app.
What is it?
So you basically scan anything, like food related.
It's
soap,
YUKA.
deodorant. I think it's YUCA. There it is.
Nice.
There it is.
YUKA.
So
Shout out to Yuka.
There it is. See, like Honey Nut Syrup. It'll tell you the additives in there.
Contains additives to avoid.
And it'll
Sugar,
tell you
juice,
all the
sugar.
it'll tell you all the chemicals and what the chemicals do to you.
Ah, that's genius.
Yeah, it's
What a
pretty
great ad. No ads. We just did an ad for them. Good for them, though.
My bad.
That's what people need. I think if RFK gets in office, he will expose a lot of this stuff, just like he did when he was an environmental attorney. You know, people think of him as just a vaccine kook. Listen, you got to look at that guy's, the history of that guy's work has all been about protecting people from corporations that are poisoning them.
Yeah.
That's literally what that guy did his whole career. And if he can do that with health, particularly with things that we can avoid. Look, one of the things they demonstrated is that Lucky Charms, as sold in the United States, they don't sell the same one in Canada. In Canada, the dyes that we use to make it all pretty and exciting for kids, they don't allow that because it's fucking toxic.
Yeah.
So we allow it, which means someone's corrupt.
Yeah.
Someone's corrupt.
Probably the whole system, maybe.
Probably the whole system is heavily influenced, at the very least. Forget about bribery. Let's not even say bribery. Heavily influenced by relationships that these people have with CEOs in these corporations and the boards of executives, and this weird little revolving door between the FDA and the CDC and all these different organizations, and then they leave, and then they get this amazing job working for some huge corporation that they were helping regulate just a few years ago. It's the most transparent thing. It should be. If insider trading is illegal, how's that legal?
Good point. I mean, does FDA approval even mean anything to you?
Not to me. It doesn't to me. But it took a long time before I got to that. took a long time before I really understood, like, why do we think that saturated fat is bad? Oh, it was a lie by the sugar companies. Okay, why do people tell you that vitamin supplementation doesn't really help and you just need a balanced diet? Oh, because doctors don't know jack shit about nutrition, and then you're going to a guy who literally knows less than you because he went to medical school for how to fix knees or whatever the fuck he specialized in, and you're taking this guy's advice, and he doesn't know anything about nutrition. He's not read any peer-reviewed data. That guy's just trying to keep up. He's got fucking bills piling in, and he's bringing people and shuffling them through the office, and he's worried about you have insurance in case you fuck up, malpractice insurance, and you have to pay your medical school bills, and those guys are barely getting, but they're floating. They're trying to just run people through their office as fast as they can.
Does it bother you if there's some type of a new? But does it bother you if it's not FDA approved at all? If it's new, like nobody's looked into it?
Well, I would think no one's looked at, especially a drug.
Yeah.
It's just like, give it some time, kids. Give it some time. I mean, how many times do they have to pull drugs before people... Like, what is the percentage of drugs that the FDA approves and then pulls? I believe it's 25%.
Yes, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think it's 25%. See if that's true. So these are the ones that they approve, and then eventually they find out, oh, this stuff's terrible for you, and then they pull it.
Yeah.
I think it's 25%. Which, what does it say? 1/3.
Oh, shit, 1/3.
1/3. I was off. According to the 2017 study, which is probably worse now, about 1/3 of drugs approved by the FDA within a 10-year period receive alerts, warnings, or recalls in the years following their approval. That's fucking bananas.
Wow.
Just give it some time, kids.
Yeah.
Also, have you seen the Steven Crowder undercover thing he did with that COVID czar in New York?
No.
Have you seen that? Jamie, go to his page and find the most recent one. Because the most recent one is fascinating. Because the most recent one, this guy's openly talking about how monkeypox is not really a threat, but they're trying to present it as a threat so they can sell this medication.
Interesting.
And they're talking about pushing this. This guy's openly talking about monkeypox is really just gay guys get it from unprotected. Let's let it.
That's the guy though, right?
Yeah, is it on his Instagram? Go to it. I'll show you which one it is. Yeah, that's it. Is it? No. That's not it. That's the one where he's talking about how he shut the city down. There's a recent one. No. I know. Maybe it's somewhere else. Let me scroll down a little bit. See if you can find the one. See that one right there? That's kind of yellow. It's yellow there. But which one? There's got to be one where he's talking about monkeypox. Because that was the one I was watching today. That's not, because that's all about shutting the schools down. God damn it, we gotta find it. Okay, just find it and get to us. Because I know I might have watched it on X. I probably thought I'm saying X now.
Yeah, good for you.
I feel politically correct. Like when I call a transgender person a girl, she. Like, you like that? How I did that? I said she. No, that's not it. That's Crowder confronting him when that guy's fired now. The guy's fucked. The monkeypox one, god damn it, I know I saved it. If you want, I can find it. I saved it on my phone because I was like, this is just so bonkers that these people are having conversations in public and openly admitting that they're trying to push people into taking drugs that don't even work. Really interesting. God damn it. This is gonna be a problem. If you just see if you can find it. It's got to be out there because I watched it this morning. Did you Google monkeypox? Nothing.
It's gonna be in one of these links.
Oh wait up, hold on, back up. That was right there. Right about that. Dr. Jay Varna. Okay. This is it.
It's not the same thing as last week.
Oh, so is it because the New York Post doesn't show it? That's okay. We can just read what it says because it's kind of interesting. We don't have to hear him say it, but Steven Crowder's kind of decided to do this James O'Keefe type deal, and I don't know how they do that. It's pretty wizardry.
Yeah.
You know, generally I think you get like a gay guy who likes to talk, and some handsome dude who can sit down with this guy and get him a little tipsy. That seems to be happening. Gay guys like to spill the beans. He previously served senior health advisor to then Mayor Bill de Blasio, was tasked with running Big Apple's pandemic response. Okay, so he was talking about the approval process while discussing SIGA Technologies Technovirament or T-Pox drug. So this is the drug for monkeypox. So that's why spinning it in the media is helpful. We want the FDA to approve our drug specifically for monkeypox, and right now it's only considered experimental, and they won't approve it, he said. The U.S. T-Pox is not approved by the FDA for treatment of Mpox, but can be used to treat patients as part of a clinical trial known as the Study of Technovirament for Human Mpox Virus, according to SIGA Technologies. The company's website added that the STOMP trial is being conducted to evaluate the efficacy of T-Pox for the treatment of Mpox. Varna then griped at the video filmed on August 14th that his then employer is stuck with our drug, but the people aren't going to be as confident in it because the data doesn't look as strong as it should. And so then later he starts talking about the stock prices. So he says sometimes you do a study and it's fucking nothing works at all, or people get really sick from it. He said in the covert recording, the problem is if you do another study, it'll take a year or two to do it because you have to get the ethics approval, you got to get the money, you got to get the patients to come in. In the videos, Barmer then gloated about how he knows the reporters well and referenced a September interview with New York Times on Mpox, which touted the T-Pox as a drug used to treat Mpox infection. He also described the World Health Organization's emergency authorization process before explaining how he wants the media to report on T-Pox. So he was talking, one of the things in the video, he was talking about stock prices. So they're talking about making it look like these drugs do better than they do, getting people to prescribe them. Okay, hold on, sorry. Okay. So basically, we're trying to get the media to say is, oh, the drug didn't work because it was designed the wrong way, so they're going to do another study, and it'll probably work. And in the meantime, people just prescribe it as an emergency drug. That's what we want the story to be, which is wild to say out loud. And he said the risk of Mpox spreading in the U.S. is very low, and it's almost certainly going to stay among gay men. Yeah, so it's all just, it's supposedly only, like, I don't think in America, I think 4 people died from it, which is, you gotta go hard.
That's it.
You gotta go hard to die from that.
You quit right before they talked about the 10-person sex parties.
Oh yeah, that was another thing. That was when he got busted for having parties during the COVID lockdowns while he was encouraging the lockdowns.
Wow.
So you didn't hear that part?
No.
Oh, so Crowder got him on camera saying that he was doing Molly and partying and saying, I hope somebody doesn't see me doing this because I could get in real trouble because, you know, obviously I reinforced the lockdowns.
Wow. I mean, surprising, but not, you know.
Boy, everybody's eyes have been opened up over the last few years. At least people that are trying to pay attention to how nutty the people are who actually run the show.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of people are, I mean, it's crazy. It's like everything you do is just flipped upside down.
It's like a bunch of actors are running it. That's what it's like. Because that's what they're really like. What politicians are like actors are not quite good looking enough to get into movies and television shows. They can't host Entertainment Tonight, but they can read off a teleprompter, you know, and they can do a good, look, Kamala Harris had one good read off a teleprompter, and she shot up in the polls. That's the power of just a performance when you want to believe something. You want to believe.
True. I mean, I don't believe anything anymore, you know.
Well, I was watching this. These guys were breaking down. You know, they can track cell phones. They can figure out like whose cell phone was there. They can get metadata. And they were talking about these Kamala Harris rallies, about how organized they are. These people are coming in on buses, and many of them have been to multiple rallies. And that when this one local one, like 80% of the people came from somewhere else, and they were all bussed in. And
how do they know that? How do they know that?
Well, I'll send this to Jamie because this one I actually have. But I think they know it because of the data. You can track data on a phone now.
Oh, they're doing the geofencing stuff?
I don't know exactly how they do it, but they're doing something in which they can tell when your phone has been in an area. Okay, I found his the other video. Yeah, here, I'll show it to you, Shannon. Because it's even grosser hearing it come out of this guy's mouth.
There's an hour-and-a-half video on his YouTube channel that I think it's taken from.
Yeah, but this is the clip. I'm sending you the clip from Instagram. For whatever, I don't know if Instagram's hiding it. I don't know what's happening. But,
They wouldn't do that.
No, it's on Slaughter with Crowder. That's why.
oh, is that what it is? Okay. God, I hate looking up things on my phone in the middle of a fucking show, but sometimes you have to. So these guys, what they were showing is that, oh, here it goes, that people, it's just very organized, and people are being busted. And, is that okay? Is that ethical? I mean, maybe just making it more convenient for them to go to the Kamala Harris rally, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But if you're organizing crowds, like, say if you do a game show, like if you host a game show, Wheel of Fortune, hello, ladies and gentlemen, those people are all paid. Most of them, or sometimes you let fans do it for like a very popular show, but I have personally been on a lot of shows where the audience is paid. So it's basically like if you're filming a sitcom, you can, and nobody knows what the sitcom is. There's a company that you can hire, and you pay the audience to come in, and the people cheer. They have an applause sign. Everybody cheers. They laugh when you tell them to laugh. Like there's a guy in the audience that's like doing this to them that the people at home don't see. So it's all theater, right? So they could do that same strategy for a political rally, easily. If you're talking about all the money you're going to be in control of when you are the president of the United States, which is a spectacular position. Not just that, but then all the money you're going to make in appearances and forever, right? You're going to do Goldman Sachs talks and make $500,000 for no apparent reason. Oh, there's so much money involved. You don't think you would pay audiences to come and cheer? That's cheap.
Yeah,
That's cheap.
I don't know. Do you think that's immoral?
Well, I think we have like very loose rules on what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. Like there was a lot of outrage because people were saying that ABC somehow or another had gotten the subject matter to Kamala, and that they had agreed to Kamala that they were not going to ask her about her DA record when she was in California, and that they were not going to talk about some other person she was involved with that might be in trouble, and they weren't going to fact check her. And then they said they were only going to fact check Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Which is what led to her saying quite a few things that weren't true, and no one said anything about it, particularly about troops being deployed overseas.
Yeah.
Did you see that video where the troops, troops are like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I got a really good friend of mine that's deployed in overseas right now.
And not including the Kamala Harris.
And yeah, he's sniping bad guys over in Africa.
Yeah, how mad would he be if he heard that?
I mean, they're pissed.
I'm not in a war zone.
They're pissed.
They should be pissed. So this is from an Instagram account. I don't know what podcast this clip came from, but let's just play it.
Rally, 5,003 mobile devices at Kamala Harris's rally in Charlotte, North Carolina on Thursday afternoon. It appears over 3,600 came from Georgia, mainly Atlanta, Georgia, and approximately 720 from Savannah, Georgia. So that's a North Carolina rally with almost 80% of the attendees being from Georgia. After you do the math, that's only 600 or so local people from North Carolina that attended. That's all who shows up, and you're planning to what, get 80-something million votes again? Something ain't right. And then all these people come from buses, and it's kind of weird because at the Trump events, you don't really have like organized buses like that. People just kind of show up and park on their own. But at the Kamala rally, there's just these lines of buses at every event, which is weird. And a lot of the people are also the same people that attend multiple rallies. Can you read those tweets? Any of the same ones from previous events, because this guy's tracking the cell phones, I guess, and he says 90% have been to 3+ rallies, 54% were even at Arizona and Nevada rallies.
Now, it could be that she is so popular that it's like Swifties. They just follow her around. Or it could be like, the Grateful Dead was in the 1970s. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe she's just so amazing all of a sudden Maybe Stella got her groove, you know? Something happened, and she just kicked into gear, and now she's her best self.
Yeah.
Her best self. She's going to be the president. Yay, let's go to these rallies.
I'm sure that's what's going on.
Could be that. It could. It could be that.
I don't think it's really immoral. I mean, it's just
immoral.
It's just a rally.
Well,
Everybody wants their rally to be full. I mean, you know, it's just, it's a facade.
yeah.
It's just a facade.
If you could do it for a game show, you could do it for a political event. I don't think it's immoral. I think if they did give her the questions, and they really did, and this is someone signed an affidavit. See what's going on with that. See what's the latest with that, Jamie. So someone signed an affidavit that was an ABC employee that claims these things, and it was very clear there was bias. It was very clear that they're fact-checking him and not fact-checking her. But it was, you know, unfortunately, he doesn't do himself any favors because he kind of goes off the rails sometimes. They're eating dogs. They're eating cats, which, by the way, they may very well be doing that. That's a thing they do in Haiti sometimes. Sometimes they sacrifice animals, and you know they have local rituals, religious rituals that they do.
I mean, this has been going on for a long time, though. You know, sometimes a kung pao chicken is a chicken.
Right.
You know?
I mean, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. And to try to pretend that it's racist to say that, no. Humans sometimes will do things.
According to this, it says that this started with a claim that there was an affidavit, but I don't know that it's ever been actually presented to anyone.
Interesting. Didn't it get discussed on Twitter and people were posting about the veracity of it? I think Elon even put it on his bill. Colin Rugg, I know, had it on his. Yeah. I think it's probably going to be hard to tell what's charged in the file.
Congress, but it doesn't say that it was,
It said it made it to Congress. Bill Ackman, that's right. Bill Ackman was who tweeted it. Didn't know if the claim was accurate, but shared it anyway, which is what's fun. It's fun to do on the internet. Vance addressed the supposed whistleblowers' allegations with reporters, saying it should be a national scandal if true. Trump again mentioned the whistleblower September 13th at a rally in Las Vegas, claiming that Harris had received the debate questions in advance. Fortunately, we had a leaker or a whistleblower. I don't care which. I love that person. What he talks. It's such a Trump statement. Representative Dan Muser in Pennsylvania said in a Fox News interview that he would try to bring in ABC News and the whistleblower before Congress to testify about the affidavit.
They said that the person who did it was killed in a car crash, and that seems to be false.
Yeah, that was rant amplified by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who also doesn't do herself any favors. I think they do stuff like that. This is my take on that. When I saw all these people tweeting that the guy died in a car crash, I was like, that might be a trap. That one might be a trap.
Yeah.
Like, I think they do stuff like that. Well, they'll throw out a fake story and get people to share it, like, you know, without looking into it at all. And it turns out to be complete horseshit, and it makes the whole thing look like horseshit now. Now it looks like makes the affidavit, it's at least connected to horseshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, it's a good tactic.
Yeah. Smart tactic.
They got a lot of good tactics.
They're very organized, which is really interesting. And that's one of the things about Trump is that he's so dominant and he's so swing from the hip that no one can kind of corral him, you know? And it seems like she's really open to being coached. Like, some of these speeches are very different than any speeches she's ever given before. And you see the difference between that and then, like, do you see the Oprah interview?
No.
She's off the rails.
Yeah,
I
heard about it.
In the fucking wine mom country again.
Wow.
But Tim Dillon is the best. Tim Dillon's like, she's saying gypsy curses. What is she saying?
Oh, man.
It's like when you get her off the rails and she is, it's kind of fucked up, right? Because that's not the job. The job is not being able to sound cool in an interview with Oprah. That's not the job. But that's the most important part about getting the job.
I just want to hear, like, you know, how they're going to accomplish all this stuff.
Well, they're going to do it once they get in, even though they're already in.
Yeah. that seems to be the typical response, right?
Well, one thing that you can see, like, really clearly is there is a ferocious effort to stop Donald Trump from becoming president again that I've never seen before. I've seen tight races. I've seen people very divided. You know, I've seen it for years. There's always been like a division between the Republicans and Democrats in this country, but not like this. Not like this, where the guy almost gets killed twice and they don't even talk about it.
It's scary, man.
It's not scary. Almost gets killed twice, and the second one they just brushed it off. Like, I don't even think the guy got a shot off.
Yeah.
Like, the guy was set up at a golf course for 12 hours with a bulletproof vest on an AK-47 and was specifically there to kill Trump. And you don't think that's crazy?
I think it's crazy they didn't cover it. I mean, it barely got covered.
Barely, in and out. And then the brother of the guy, or the guy's son, gets arrested for child pornography. Which is,
do you know, have you looked into the BlackRock commercial stuff at all? Is that real?
The one shooter was in the BlackRock commercial. That was the kid that tried to kill Trump.
Yeah.
They said that this guy was in a BlackRock commercial, but I heard that that's not true.
It's bullshit.
But that could be another one that they just throw out there.
Yeah, right.
You throw one out there like that, and then people retweet it, and those people look stupid because you retweeted something dumb, and then it weakens the public's faith in what you have to say about things, and also makes the story look stupid. Like that story about that whistleblower will forever be connected to people retweeting the fact that he died in a car accident, even though he didn't die in a car accident.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be shrouded in bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of genius.
It is, man. It's a great way to discredit.
Yeah, it's a great way to get somebody elected. When you're seeing the manipulation just in full bloom, just marching down the street in front of everybody, and no one's freaking out about it, that's what's really weird.
What do you think, have you thought about who's behind all these assassination attempts? You think they're lone wolves, or?
Well, was it Matt Gaetz that was saying that he's been informed that there's 5 different kill teams looking for Trump in the country right now?
Somebody did just say that.
2 of them are domestic. Trump said it. There's 5 guys. They think they're gonna get me. They're not gonna get me. So what's the quote? Big threats on my life by Iran. The U.S. military is watching and waiting. Moves already been made by Iran that didn't work out, but they will try again. Not a good situation for anyone. I'm surrounded by more men, guns, and weapons than I have ever seen before. Thank you to Congress for unanimously approving far more money to Secret Service. 0 no votes. What? 0 no votes, strictly bipartisan. Okay. Oh, I understand. 0 no votes, like no one voted against it. Strictly bipartisan. Nice to see Republicans and Democrats get together on something. An attack on a former president is a death wish for the attacker. Yeah, it wasn't just him that was saying that, though. It was, I'm pretty sure it was Matt Gaetz. I know I have that saved, too, if you want. But, so if there really are 5 different kill teams in the country looking for Trump right now, that's just insane.
But it should be hard to find them, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's rallies, you know, giant rallies.
Yeah.
In New York, there was 60,000 people.
That's insane.
See, that's the difference between the Kamala Harris rallies. If that guy's telling the truth, and they really are just sort of manipulating this and putting on theater, that's a big difference between what's happening with Trump.
Yeah.
If he got organically got 60,000 people to come see him and freak out in New York. It's kind of, the media is a monster. It really is. It's such an obvious monster. Such a deceptive, sneaky, propagandist monster.
It's, how long do you think the media has left? They'll be around. You think so?
It all depends on who gets into office, really. It depends on, so the real fear was when they started getting their claws into Twitter. The real fear was when the government started suppressing accurate information and Twitter let them do it. That was scary close. So Elon buys Twitter, releases the Twitter files. Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, and all those journalists, they all uncover all these different aspects that's super disturbing and totally illegal. And they release everything. And then Twitter becomes kind of crazy. Like Twitter's wild now. Like it's just totally wild, wild west, unregulated. And then what do you got, Jim? This is it. Okay, one of the 5 known teams hunting President Trump before Butler, Pennsylvania. The attempt was Ukrainian. So this is Matt Gaetz talking about this. But I think that if that hadn't happened, so if all of social media remained like staunch leftist, left wing, just giving completely into whatever propaganda the government wants to give them regarding vaccines or Ukraine or anything else, with no critical arguments about it that are accepted. They just, anybody who doesn't follow the narrative, especially people like, they censored people from Stanford and MIT. They were trying to tell them to pull those guys, like Jay Bhattacharya, or these doctors about COVID. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did.
Censoring like legitimate experts in the field who aren't kooks, guys like Peter McCullough, who's the most published doctor in his field of study in human history. And they're like, no, you're a kook. You're a kook. And we know now that that was not true, and he was correct. Now we all know, right? All these years later, most people kind of know what the fuck happened, even if people are reluctant to admit they got duped.
Yeah.
If Elon does not come along and buy Twitter, I don't know where we are right now. I really don't. Because if they had the clamps on Twitter, and they did the same thing with Twitter that they're doing right now with other social media apps, it would be fucking awful out there.
I know, man. It's Elon's been a blessing.
He really has.
It's a big one. I mean, I don't think they're going to be around that much longer. I feel like that the media will die with the baby boomer generation.
I think if Elon didn't buy Twitter, they would have been fine. I really do.
Probably.
The only thing that fucks them up is YouTube, but they've got a clamp on YouTube too. YouTube is, they're very restrictive in what you can talk about. Especially during the pandemic. They would ban you from YouTube for talking about things that we know for a fact are true now.
We dealt with a lot of that.
We dealt with a lot of that, right?
I'll bet you did too.
Oh yeah. Anybody on YouTube, you have to like parse your words. Like Jimmy Dore, even when he's criticizing the vaccine, he said, but you should take the vaccine because it's safe and effective.
Yeah.
He always has to say it, like to cover his ass, like as a joke.
Was it nice for you to come off YouTube? Did you enjoy that when it first happened?
My strategy
pain in the ass gone?
No, I don't pay attention to it. But my strategy was to become 10% less famous. So when I went over to Spotify was going to give me all this money, and I was like, oh great, just to fucking be a little less famous too. That'd be good. Like kind of like go the Howard Stern route, kind of fade off into the sunset.
Yeah. Did it work?
No, it didn't work. I know. I was going to get caught up in this massive controversy, But it also, even before that, this podcast was growing on Spotify a little too quick. But so there's no like extra pressure being on YouTube, but there is a pressure if you rely on YouTube. If you rely
I guess
on
I meant with
they'll demonetize you.
That's what I meant. I meant with like the censorship stuff. I was wondering,
Want to hear something interesting?
Yeah.
We got demonetized all the time. A lot of episodes got demonetized until we announced that we're going to go exclusive to Spotify. And then from that moment out, there was like a few months of a window.
No kidding.
They never demonetized us. They just took all the money.
Don't go, Joe.
No, they didn't. No, it wasn't that. They wanted the money now. Like, why would they demonetize me? Because they don't get a cut either. So what they're trying to do, essentially, is get you to fall in line by getting you to self-censor because it benefits you financially. It's a creepy form of censorship because you do it to yourself and it's kind of okay because you can't really prove that they got you to not talk about things you wanted to talk about, and they can't really prove that you follow this public narrative just because you want to keep your job.
I mean, what really bothers me is because we both put a lot into this, and what bothers me, it's like, just tell me what you want me to take out. What is it?
I don't even want
to fucking tell you.
I don't want to talk now. This is how my feeling on the thing is. I don't think they should be talking to people about what to put in. I think if you're not doing anything illegal, if you're not saying anything illegal or doing anything illegal, don't take it off.
Some of it I'm totally with you. Some of it I get, like pedophilia,
100% illegal stuff.
even language. I mean, there's 3-year-olds out watching. I got a 3-year-old kid. He's watching.
Right, they have YouTube Kids. Like,
So-
YouTube Kids is great.
So I get it when they mark my shit with 18 plus, but but they won't tell me.
Right.
It's like, well, just I can't correct the fucking problem if you don't tell me what it is.
Right.
And I mean they just don't want to abide. They don't want to box themselves in and not be able to censor somebody.
Yeah, there's that, and there's no benefit for them to tell you what you said that was wrong. There's no benefit. The good thing is you get you to self-censor. That's the best. You put the threat over you. That's why they give you strikes. 1 strike, 2 strikes. Show me for 3 strikes. It's kind of silly. It's weird. It's like, is this the penal system or is this a goddamn social media platform?
Yeah.
It should be. If advertisers don't want to advertise on that particular content, okay, that seems easy to manage, guys. And guess what? There'd be a lot of advertisers that would be willing to advertise on that content. You're just not being creative enough with your advertisement. If you're just treating it as a business, or are you treating it as not just a social media video website, but a way to push and a way to amplify a very specific message?
I mean, if you can control what comes out of people's mouths, and you can control what they think.
Yeah, and if you're making a lot of money on YouTube and you're doing great, like, wow, I've got a fucking real good life now. And then all of a sudden YouTube comes along and says, oh, you were talking about the vaccine, Sean, we're gonna have COVID vaccine misinformation on our platform. This is gonna cost lives. And some platforms make you do like a re-education thing where you have to talk to them and have conversations with them about what you did that may have been offensive or what you did that may have violated the terms and conditions that they have for their community.
Yeah, I think we had to do that. I think we did that.
Fucking creepy. That shit's fucking creepy because you're dealing with some fucking woke kid in Silicon Valley who up-talks. And this person, okay, what you're doing, Sean, right now with your show, I know that you don't think it's harmful, but it really is. It really is. It's truly harmful. Yeah, it's truly harmful. You exposing government corruption and
I can tell. It's real harmful, all right.
But it's fucking weird, man. It's weird. But I love the fact that at least it exists. And even though it's not perfect, because I don't think YouTube can be perfect because they're managing at scale. In order for them to get all the pornography and the murder, cartels upload murder videos to YouTube, but they're constantly trying to put out fires. You imagine the amount of data that YouTube has to deal with on a daily basis?
Yeah.
It kind of behooves them to just fucking give them strikes, threaten them, let's just slow everything down. Like, too much of this is getting us in trouble. We just want to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. There's only one YouTube. It's kind of genius. And it's perfect setup. Like, the algorithm where it's constantly, recommending stuff that you're interested in. It's fucking great. Great time waster. But it's also a tool for shaping narratives. And if only one narrative is pushed out there and other narratives will demonetize, so you lose your ability to make a living and then possibly get your whole channel removed, which it did to many people. They just removed their whole channel.
Well, I mean, where do you think this is going to end? I think it is.
That should be, all that stuff we talked about should be illegal. That stuff should be covered in the First Amendment. Demonetization, no. Because look, if you want to have standards where you say that for the advertisers that we have a group of advertisers, and they have requested no shows where someone swears, no shows where someone talks about sex, no shows where someone talks about over drinking or anything like that. And they just have rules. We don't want to be associated with that. Okay, that's totally reasonable. But when you want to stop a channel from uploading a video because they're making an argument that maybe the lab leak hypothesis is legitimate, and you're pulling that off the air, well, now what are you doing? If you're deleting an episode that's accurate about really dangerous information not just to us, but also to the organizations that paid for these crazy gain-of-function research projects. Like, what the fuck are you doing, and what did you do? And if you were talking about that on YouTube and even expressing your ability to just guess that maybe it came from that area. Like, have you ever seen that Jon Stewart interview where he's on the Colbert Show?
Yeah.
Fucking amazing, right? Amazing. But even that, like, Colbert's trying to stop him, and like, just saying, maybe these people who are working on these fucking viruses let one leak. Maybe. That would get you removed from YouTube. That's a violation of the First Amendment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you should, especially some of these people were very informed people. They were biologists, and they were talking about the very specific design of this virus, the ferrin cleavage sites, and how it's very different than anything you see from a natural spillover. They were talking about technical, very specific details, and they were getting banned. Like, Brett Weinstein almost lost his channel. He almost lost it. Yes. Yes.
Didn't know that.
We gotta have him on, do an emergency podcast, and like let people know what the fuck is going on.
Damn.
They almost pulled his channel.
Damn. That's.
And he's a biologist, a brilliant one, and he's talking about real information.
It's scary, man. I mean, I don't know. I think about it all the time, obviously.
Yeah.
Industries. So it just I hope X, turns out to be the new thing.
I don't think X is going anywhere. I think Elon knows how important it is, and he's got all the money in the world. I think he'll keep that bitch running. And I think it's also getting attached to AI now, which is going to be an insane moneymaker. I don't think X has any problems. I think he's going to grow it into some sort of an all-in-one app. They probably have cryptocurrency on it and private messaging and phone calls. You'll be able to shop on it. That's what it's probably going to be, if I had to guess. And I think that for places like Rumble, the more places like YouTube and Facebook and all these other places, more they can find people and more they force people into these boxes and make people toe the line if they want to make any money off of advertising or if they don't want to get their channel deleted, the more companies like Rumble will emerge. That's what I think. I think there's going to be just, right now Rumble's a hard sell for some folks because they see it as like, oh, the right-wing, fucking, like a MAGA. I'm not going to Truth Social. It's Truth Social video. There's a lot of people that have those prejudices, but, Russell Brand's on there. A lot of people are on there. It's a good platform, and it's an important platform, and we should, like, support it and want it to grow. We should want them all to grow. Like, Spotify's got video now. We need more video, because audio is just not enough. Just audio podcasts, you want people to share things virally.
Yeah.
And the virally stuff, it's all like Elon Musk when he smoked a blunt on my podcast, that's all video. You want video of that.
Yeah.
And the more we have platforms where that stuff is just free, where you can just say whatever you want, say whatever you think about anything, which really X and Rumble are the only places that I know of that you could really do that right now.
Have you had any problem on audio at all?
No.
Good.
No.
Good. I haven't either.
It's, audio is like they're leaving that alone for now. I think it's probably because it's not as easily shared.
That's what's coming next.
Yeah, probably. I mean, all they would have to do is just put images of you and images of me and then have our audio and upload that as a video. And then maybe they would start coming after audio.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I hope, I just hope this shit starts to turn around.
I do too, but I don't think it turns around if Kamala Harris gets into office. I think they clamp down more. I think the same stuff that they were trying to do with Twitter, they'll try to do with something else, with other things. They've already openly discussed it. She's openly discussed that the same rules have to apply to Facebook, they have to apply to Twitter, and that Elon Musk could lose his privileges. And, there's so many wild things that they're saying. Tim Walz said that the First Amendment doesn't apply to misinformation or hate speech. Okay, well, it certainly does. It does. Sometimes people say things wrong, and the goal of the First Amendment is you say something wrong, and then this guy who's an expert says the right thing.
Yeah.
And then you correct them.
Yeah, I mean, the misinformation, it's just all opinion.
Right. Well, so much of it turns out to be true. How about masks don't work? You would get screamed at for masks don't work. Well, guess what? They don't fucking work. They don't work. Fauci said masks don't work. Remember that interview before the pandemic, before they knew how big it was going to be?
Yes.
He was like, you don't have to wear a mask.
Then it was wear two.
It was wear doubles.
Put two face diapers on.
It's bananas how easily people fell in line. That scared me the most.
I know. It was, I mean, it's like, what are you, there's nothing they won't do. There's nothing they won't do.
There's a lot of cowards out there. there's a lot of people that have never been pushed and they don't know what to do when they get nervous, and they're out there voting.
Do you think they're cowards, or do you think they're just lazy and they like being told what to do?
There's both.
Takes all the decisions out of their day.
There's both. But there's also people that are scared of a negative response, so they say what everybody wants them to say. You know, somebody described this really very eloquently, and I saved it on my phone because I'm like, this guy nailed it. But essentially they were saying, like, especially with beta males, they don't say something because they have an opinion and they really want to express that opinion. They say something and they consider, am I going to get in trouble if I say this? And then if that's the case, they don't. And am I going to get in trouble if I agree with them? And probably not, because right-wing people don't really go after you the same way left-wing people do. Like, if you want to talk about, like, a woman's right to choose. If you want to say, I agree with a woman's right to choose, but, like Bill Burr's bit, you ever see that bit? And he goes, I think I agree with a woman's right to choose, but I also think you're killing a baby. You know, it's a kind of a crazy bit. It's because it's really funny because he's brilliant, but it's just, that's really what it is.
I mean, that's the truth.
That is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, factually, that is what it is. And this is coming from someone who's pro-choice. But I think that if you look at all the things that they have that distract us, all the different things that are in the news constantly, whether it's the Diddy raid or fucking J-Lo and Ben Affleck breaking up, and you're just getting force-fed all kinds of shit while the border is wide open, while they have apps where people can get flights.
The BP1 app.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That sounds like I had Chamath on. Do you know Chamath? I don't want to mispronounce his last name. I'll fuck it up. Brilliant, brilliant guy. And we were talking about how hard it was for his family to legally immigrate into this country, and how difficult it was to get a visa. And I mean, this is a brilliant guy. He started Facebook. You know, he's one of the original guys at Facebook. And he's this guy who did it the right way, and every step of the way there was this tremendous anxiety when he would go to get his visa renewed, because he didn't know he came to the country, because someone could arbitrarily go, no, not good enough, because he had to prove to be here that he has skills that an American doesn't have. Yeah. He's a real expert in something.
I went down to the border about, I think it was about two years ago-ish, maybe a little longer, and I went down with Ed Calderon. And
I love Ed.
Yeah, what a great guy.
He's a great guy. I've had him on a couple times.
Yeah, that's where I found him. So thank you. So I went down to TJ with him, and this was like before it really hit the news cycle, and we walked into a migrant camp, probably a couple thousand migrants there, and so I yanked one of them out and interviewed him, and used Ed to help translate it. I mean, the guy's been sitting there for I think he was there with his wife and kids for 2 years, and I was like, why don't you just go across, dude? It's it's an honest question. Why don't you just go across? He said he wanted to do it the right way.
Wow.
He's like, nah, I just want to do it the right way. And
oh my God.
He's running around with this little battery pack charging cell phones for 50 cents. And I'm just like, fucking A, man. Why don't they just? Because nobody's anti-immigration.
No,
not that I know of. And
we're
anti-terrorists. Yeah. Why don't you just unfuck the immigration process, and maybe we can get some more people in here quicker, legally, if you do that, and then we actually know who's coming in, and we have documentation of who they are. And
wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, that's racist.
Yeah.
So, and they want them to vote, which is even crazier. They're pumping them out into swing states. It's so transparent. It's happening right in front of everybody's face, and it's a wild grab for power. And the only people talking about it are people like us, which is really crazy. The only people that are talking about it are people that aren't really connected to some sort of executive corporation, a bunch of producers, a bunch of people telling you what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not even something that, that right-wing news wants to discuss.
Good point. Good point. I mean, have you done any digging on who's coming across there?
Yeah. I talked to Dr. Phil about it. Dr. Phil did this big investigation. You know, he's got his own network now, Merit Media. It's gotten so bad that Dr. Phil decided he has to start a network for news.
Good for him, man.
He's a great guy.
Good for him.
Great guy. But he was essentially, you know, talking about how they really don't know how many people that are coming through that are criminals. They're dropping off their IDs on the Mexican side. They just get rid of their IDs so that when they cross over, they have nothing on them. You don't know who they are. You don't know what they've done. Gang members, cartel members, guys escaping Venezuelan prisons. No one knows.
Yeah.
All you have to do is get over here, and we'll give you an EBT card. We'll set you up. Go to New York City. They'll put you in a nice hotel. They give you free food. And meanwhile, there's poor people in Chicago that are like, what about us? What about American citizens that pay tax dollars? You guys don't give a fuck about us. You haven't done anything for us. Why? Because they know those people are going to vote Democrat. They know they already got them. They already got them. We've got those people. Statistically, they look at the numbers. Like statistically, this has gone blue. We're fine. Yeah, we're good. Let's just get some people in them swing states.
It's fucking scary, man. I've been diving into the border shit for quite a while, and ever since this Afghanistan withdrawal, that I mean, that was like a big. I mean, that was just so fucking.
Did you talk to Tim about that?
Tim
Kennedy, when you had him on?
A little bit.
Dude, he told me some shit. He told me some shit that you can't imagine. Like, that guy saw so much overseas, and he said the worst things he ever saw was the Afghanistan pullout.
Dude, do you know who Tyler Andrew Vargas is?
No.
That's the one Marine that survived that suicide bombing at Abbey Gate. Abbey Gate they killed 13 Marines.
Yeah.
And so I called him. Well, everybody wanted him to come on the show, and I was like, oh, everybody can get this fucking guy. Like all the media, everybody wants him. And but I was like, all right, fine, I'll reach out. So hit him on the gram, and messaged right back, and he got in, and he's like, man, I'm so glad that you reached out to me. He's like, I was literally just praying with my fiance that you would reach out, because wow, he had just did an ABC Good Morning America interviewed for 7 hours. They released 5 seconds of that interview because it made the administration look so fucking bad. They wouldn't air it. Wow. So I got him on, kept getting dinged, by YouTube. They didn't let the real footage, which was actually like from his cell phone that we did previews and shit. But man, like to have like his testimony about what happened that day, and then the care afterwards, which was fucking atrocious. The guy, I watched this guy. My studio's on Second Story, and I watch a 23-year-old kid hobble up those fucking stairs with one leg, one arm, all kinds of shit going on in his intestine. I mean, I was like, man, this didn't even have to happen. They had the guy. They had the fucking guy in the sights. They could have killed him, and nobody gave him permission. Maybe I can't backseat quarterback it, but maybe they shouldn't have asked. Just eliminated him.
Jesus Christ.
But I mean, he's talking about, before we got into the actual incident, he was talking about, like moms trying to throw their babies over the wall and getting caught up in razor wire and just seeing a fucking baby dangle there by the leg.
Yeah.
And there's like no, there's no repercussions for how that went down. The media just wants to fucking cover it up. And so I started digging deep, and I teamed up with the former CIA targeter, Sarah Adams, and then a really good friend of mine, Scott Bannon. We went over to Vienna to interview this guy, Ahmad Massoud, who's the leader, the commander of the Northern Alliance out there. It's like the resistance. It's kind of fighting the Taliban. The Taliban pretty much took over government in Afghanistan.
I saw the parade.
Yeah. With all our shit that we left there. Crazy. Yeah, man. So, got a bunch of intel from Massoud, and so kind of looping all the way back around to the southern border. I mean, so once Taliban took control of all of our shit, I mean, this could go on for a while, but so now what they're doing is they have the passport office over there just making legitimate passports to there's 21 terrorist organizations over there training. Hamza bin Laden, who we were told was killed, is actually fucking alive, and he's marrying into all these other terrorist networks. So he married Mullah Omar's daughter. He married who else? He married into all these different terrorist networks, and so these guys used to be like competitors, kind of, you know, just like the UFO guys. They all hate each other, but they all have the one common theme, like disclosure. These guys, the one common thing is, you know, let's go take over the Western world. So he is basically Hamza bin Laden is married into all these terrorist organizations. Now they all have one common goal: to come over to, you know, the Western world and ruin our way of life. And so what they're doing is they're funneling as many of these terrorists into the passport office, creating them legitimate, real passports, and then they sprinkle them, they get them flights into all over South and Central America, and then they funnel them up through the Darien Gap into the U.S. And so, you know, there is zero. I don't give a fuck what the FBI or any of these people are saying. There is zero way to track how many of these fuckers have come in to the U.S. And so, you know, now what we're going to see is like October 7th style attacks, like we just saw in Israel and the mall in Russia, and everybo's like, oh, you know,
Do you think this is by design?
By design.
Like the leaving the border porous, allowing these people to come in?
Absolutely, I think it's by design. I mean, they basically told Border Patrol, stand down. Like, do not do your fucking job. We're going to blast you. I mean, remember the guy on the horse that they said was whipping people, and it wound up being like the reins of the horse? I mean, yeah, I think it's by design, you know, from the government, but I think that the government is more incompetent than it's ever been before, and I think they have one common goal, and that I think the goal is voting. You know, they want them to vote, but I don't think they're competent enough to realize the death and destruction and the other repercussions that we're going to face by keeping that border open. You know, because they don't have anybody, you know, that they don't have anybody with any experience that they don't have any solid intelligence stuff going on that's telling them, like, hey, this is what's going to happen. It's all agenda driven.
Jesus Christ.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It does make sense that all they care about is voting. Is get the people in, don't worry about the consequences. But the more insidious conspiracy would be that they want unrest, because it gives them an opportunity to clamp down on rights.
I mean, shit, though. Unrest, I mean, they got really good at unrest. You know what I mean? In 2020, right? You know, all through, or even before 2020, you know, up to that election. So I don't think they need to import terrorism.
Yeah, but it's a different kind of unrest. The kind of unrest that you get from people blowing up Target is very different than the kind of unrest you get from a legitimate terror attack.
Yeah. I mean, you know, then people, do you ever think about why nothing's happened yet with China? If you look into the power grid at all?
Yeah.
Dude,
it's not good.
Lights out, buddy.
It's so easy to kill.
Yeah.
The power grid's so weak. It's so vulnerable. It's really nuts. It's nuts because anybody can target it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, China, you know, we have those, you know, we get those big well, everything's imported from China. We have these huge, you know, transformers. You can tell me shut up if you already know all the shit. But all of those transformers are imported from China. And they're not checked. They don't fucking check them for malware or Trojan horses or anything. And it would take, I mean, these transformers, it's not like the little box outside your house, you know, the green box. They have to take overpasses out just to transport these things. So you're talking years, and I think the number was like 9. If they took out 9 transformers, then the entire U.S. would be out of power. On top of that, so then DOE, Department of Energy, actually investigated one because somebody was, it got to D.C. that, whatever, they decided to look into it. And they wouldn't fucking release the results. They wouldn't fucking release the results. So, you know, they're in our water treatment plants, they're in our power grid. I've been talking about this shit for years, and then cell phone towers, and then FBI Director Chris Wray comes out and says, "Oh yeah, turns out our grid's really vulnerable. China's in there, and they're also in our treatment plants. They're buying, they can fucking poison us."
Yeah, they own land around military bases. Like, if they are on a long-term strategy, it's very effective. They're doing a great job. They undercut the competition to give us cell phone towers and all sorts of things. They position them around military bases. Mike Baker was explaining all of it to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how are they letting this go through? Is it incompetence? Is it fools running it? Are they corrupt? Like, how did they do that? I mean, one of the things that really fucked us, we got away from manufacturing, and we relied on all these countries. We really found that out during COVID, when you couldn't get shipments. It was like, whoa, wait a minute, how much of our shit is made over there? Like, everything? Like, how much medicine is made overseas? How many different things that we need, that we constantly use, we don't even know how to make? You know, a lot. Masks.
You see those piles of the fucking masks out, you know, I didn't wear them very long, but I fell for it for about 30 days. And then I was like, this is fucking But, yeah, you pull the mask out, and I live out in the woods, so I didn't, you know, but, yeah, made in China. I'm like, wait, didn't the thing come?
Yeah. They're making money hand over fist.
Cool.
The whole thing is nuts.
Go U.S.
Yeah, it's nuts. But getting away from manufacturing in this country really did not do this country any justice. It's just for corporations to save a little bit of money and push everything off to third world countries to manufacture things. That's including our phones. And I've said this over and over again. If Apple could make an American-made phone and charge me more money, I'll pay double the money. Yeah, charge me a phone where I know the people get union wages, they get health care, they get paid correctly, they could live a good life, and they work normal hours. They don't have to sleep in a fucking bunk like they do in that Foxconn building when they have nets all around the building and keep people from jumping from the roofs.
Yeah.
You've seen that shit, right?
No, actually.
You haven't seen that?
No.
The Chinese factories where they make iPhones are so fucked. The people are so distraught that they put all these fencing with giant nets all around the buildings because so many people were jumping to their death that they decided, we'll just catch them with nets.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Those are the nets. Those are suicide nets all around the building.
Sorry, buddy. Back to the assembly line.
How crazy is that?
Damn, that is fucked
How
up.
crazy is that?
Wow.
Instead of making the conditions better where people don't want to kill themselves so often that you need nets around a building, they go, nah, nets is fine. Fuck those people.
Dude, it's straight slavery.
Yeah. It's close to it. I mean, they don't really have any other options. And when you're getting a phone, you know, and what's a phone? Like $1,500 bucks? Is that what it is? Charge $2,000.
Yeah.
Charge $2,000. People will pay it. Most people are like putting on a part of their bill to pay a little bit of it off every day, and you really don't need to fucking switch phones every year. Like everybody does, but you don't need to. It's stupid. Like I have a iPhone 11 that I use sometimes. Like one of my numbers, fucking works great. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
5-year-old phone or 4-year-old phone, whatever the fuck it is. So you could get a made in America phone, and you wouldn't feel like you're supporting this horrific shit that everybody turns a blind eye to. Because that's the only way you get that kind of stuff. You know, they have them all made over there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I don't think it's coming back, but...
Well, it could. I mean, there would have to be a large concerted effort, but the problem is it took decades to go away. It'll probably take slightly longer to come back. You know, because there's got to be planning and funding, and people have to make long-term investments. It's going to be a big gamble.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, I'm sure you've seen Who Killed what is it? Michael Moore's documentary? The Flint, Michigan one. What is it called again? Roger. That's right. I want to say he killed Roger Rabbit. Roger and me. But it's all about what happened to Flint, Michigan once they pulled out auto manufacturing. And the entire population, just those people who live in check to check, they were doing okay, but they had jobs, and then all of a sudden, gone. Every job's gone. There's no jobs. There's nothing to do. The entire industry's gone. And just people went into dire poverty, like horrific dire poverty, like instantaneously.
Yeah.
And just so a corporation can make some more money.
It's sad.
It's horrible. It's fucking horrible. It's horrible. And it's horrible that that's an option. That a corporation would decide, fuck this town.
What do you think it would? I mean, you think it's going to come back, or
I think it could come back. It could come back. I'm optimistic, but honest. You know, I try to look at it honestly, but also go, I think most people are good people. I really do. I really believe that. You know, even most of these people that are walking in from Guatemala, I would too. 100%. If I was living in the middle of nowhere and you told me, hey, America's letting people in, you get a landscaper job and make $20 an hour, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I would 100% walk.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? I think most people are good people and they just want a better life. And I think the more we unite under that idea and stop buying into this bullshit that, like, if either side is correct, that it's the end of democracy. I think we have to, like, stop all that tribal nonsense that's happening between the left and the right, because people are just subscribing to ideologies and getting captured in them, just like a religious fervor. Like they think that they're doing the only thing that could possibly be done to save us all, and that the other side is a dire threat. That's why, like, something like 24% of Americans think it would be a good thing if Donald Trump got shot.
I just read that.
Fucking insane.
Yeah.
Fucking insane. That people would think that violence by an assassin would be a good thing on a former president. Like, we're that fucked. But I think that that's just a lot of media manipulation and a lot of people getting riled up and living in these echo chambers and these bubbles. But I think ultimately at the core, most people are good people. And I think if we had some wins, if some things like that did start getting built, and they did start bringing back more American manufacturing, people start getting excited about the idea that America becomes not just a place of innovation and art and creativity, but also, like, we start manufacturing great shit again.
Yeah.
There's no reason why we don't do that.
I mean, I don't feel like, I feel like technology is advancing. It's such a rapid pace. I feel like AI will take over. AI and robots will take over everything.
Well, if AI and robots do that, at least we can get AI and robots to manufacture things in America.
Yeah,
that would be good.
No, I'm with you. I don't see. I guess what I'm saying is I don't see the union worker. I don't see where their place really fits in.
There's going to be a lot less people, that's for sure. It's pretty much every job, every manual labor job is under threat.
I think every job's under threat.
I don't think podcasts. What are you going to do, bitch? How are you going to think like me? Good luck. Good luck. And comedy, you're always going to have comedy. Movies are in real trouble, because AI can write pretty fucking amazing scripts, and the CGI, the way they can crank out videos, bananas now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bananas. It's just, it looks perfect, and it comes out like minutes instead of years.
Do you really think podcasting is safe from AI?
I don't know. Well, I know AI is going to translate. So Spotify is going to translate my show to multiple different languages.
Nice.
Eventually. Once they get the technology completely dialed in. But they'll be able to do it in Spanish, German, French, and you're going to be able to hear, it'll sound like me, but speaking fluent French.
No kid.
Yeah.
Are you like the test bunny?
No, they've done it already.
Oh, cool.
They've definitely done it. But they're going to be able to, once they have it completely dialed in, where there's no glitch, because there's going to be some weird glitches in context and, you know, cultural things like that aren't going to make sense if you translate it. Yeah, that'll be weird. But once they get it dialed in pretty good, it's going to It'll be great for everybody. It'll open up the world. Like, I want to know what these folks are saying in Russia. You know, I'd like to listen to a Russian podcast.
Yeah.
You know, I've watched some Russian news things and seen the teleprompter roll, and it's like they're always mocking us and make fun of us for having 78 genders. And like they relentlessly mock us in the news. Like, that's interesting. Like, this is how Russia looks in America.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I mean, I probably shouldn't be talking about my work direction that I'm going to go, but fucking whatever. That's what I want to do. I want to start going and talking to all these foreign dignitaries and getting a different perspective on what we're doing. I don't think we're the good guys anymore. You know, I don't agree with a lot of the shit that I was involved in, you know, as a SEAL or CIA contractor. And I mean, like BRICS. Are you familiar with BRICS?
No.
Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. I think, don't quote me on this, I think they have 22 countries now. It's kind of like a counter to NATO. It's all these countries that are tired of us, tired of the tariffs, tired of the weaponization of the U.S. dollar. And so basically what they're trying to do is throw the U.S. currency off the world stage and pull it and use Chinese yen. Whoa. And, you know, I mean, that would destroy us if all trade went to, if the world reserve currency went to the Chinese yen, that would destroy our economy. And so, but yet they're gaining a lot of traction on this. And so, yeah, I would love to go to any one of these 22 countries and talk to them and just ask, like, why are you doing this?
Right.
Why are you doing this? Because that gives, nobody's fucking talking about this shit, you know, and
I didn't even know about it until just now.
yeah, there's no journalists talking about this. You could look up BRICS on X. There's a page. It's pretty, I don't know if it's like an official one, but they're always posting like updates about it and what's going on. And so I think it would be really important for somebody to go around and start talking to, you know, getting another perspective rather than what, you know, Fox and CNN have to say about it.
What changed with you that altered your perspective about us being the good guys?
COVID. Really? Yeah, I mean, it's, I mean, I used to get, like, really upset when people would, you know, talk about, you know, the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan, and when I was still in, you know, and I got so pissed off, I moved out of the fucking country. And I was like, I don't even want to listen to this shit anymore. But after diving in and looking at the policies that came out and kind of, you know, it's kind of like when it's just reflecting on some of the policy decisions and stuff that didn't really make sense at the time when I was in. And now I look back and I'm like, man, what the, like, I didn't have time to think about it. Because it was, okay, go on the next stop, go on the next mission, whatever, right? But now, like, looking back through the podcast and talking to, you know, my podcast started with all my former colleagues and mill and agency, nobody thinks we should have been there, especially Iraq. Nobody thinks we should have been there. And I just keep going down the rabbit hole, and man, I don't, diving into the military-industrial complex, all the lies that the government has been telling us, all the unreleased, classified shit, you know, it's overwhelming, and it's created a 100% complete distrust in government. I mean, the Dick Cheney stuff, I mean, you know about Dick Cheney, Halliburton. Yeah. You looked into that?
Yeah. At all. Well, he was the CEO of Halliburton, and then Halliburton got no big contracts to rebuild in Iraq.
I don't think people understand, like, how crazy that is. How big. I mean, it was the fucking logistics company for two wars. That's everything, you know. They're delivering delivering your mail, they're building your barracks, they're cooking your food, they're in charge of garbage, they're in charge of fuel, they're everything that's logistical over there is Halliburton, caviar. Wow. In both countries. And I mean, you know, I think people think Afghanistan, they're like, oh man, you're probably in a tent or sleeping on the side of a mountain or something. No, man, there's fucking Burger King, KFC, Pizza Hut, Thai restaurants. I mean, that's all logistics. I mean, it's cities that we built over there, and it all was built by Halliburton. Wow. Who was, you know, the CEO's vice president of the fucking country. Like, what? Are you serious?
And now he supports Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Right.
When you see the left getting excited that Dick Cheney is supporting their candidate, you know the world got haywire.
Yeah,
The same people that used to think Dick Cheney was the devil, now all of a sudden they're like, look, Dick Cheney.
Nobody died. It's like nobody actually has an opinion anymore. They're just told, you know, hey, this is what we're going with for the next 2 hours.
I wonder how long they can keep that up with the internet, because the distrust in the media is at an all-time high. It's probably, it has to be higher than it's ever been in human history. It's ever been in the history of printed words right now. More distrust than ever. And at the same time, you have these independent people that have become bigger than the media. That's never happened before. There's never been a thing where just an app that you get on your phone has 30 times more views than the top show at CNN.
Yeah.
That's never happened before. But now that's the world that we live in, and so propaganda is not effective anymore. And it's also the delivery method that they use. It sucks. They sit there with makeup on, with perfect clothes, and they said, right now in Syria, and they start reading these things, and they're reading them off the teleprompter, and you know that person could be working at fucking Entertainment Tonight. They could be working at, you know, any other show. They're just a talking head. You know, they're just, no one believes, they know they're the mouthpiece for some giant corporation. No one thinks that's the real news anymore. You have to be like old boomers who are like real tired, like those old liberal boomers. They're still like MSNBC to the death. You know, like the Stephen Kings out there. Yeah. MSNBC to the death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Right
what I was
on.
saying about the baby boomer generation. I mean, I think that the media will die. If things continue just the way they are, and the censorship doesn't get too bad, I think the media's done when the baby.
Didn't George Soros just buy 200 radio stations?
Yeah, man.
First of all, what a bad investment, because who the fuck listens to radio? That's a bad investment. But second of all, what are you going to do? Like, because one thing that I do find is that right-wing talk radio is probably the only that's like the only place where you get a lot of right-wing ideas. Like, there's a lot of, like, local right-wing talk radio. The reason why I know is my mechanic, whenever he fixes one of my cars and he brings it back, he's always listening to right-wing talk radio. So I turned my car on the other day and I'm listening to these guys argue about Kamala Harris and the border, and that she was the fucking border czar. You know, they didn't swear, but they were going over this, and I was like, that's interesting. Like, maybe that's what he wants to stop. You know, if you want to own 200 radio stations, just start firing all those right-wing guys.
That's what I think. You know,
you would stop a lot of that, because I think that's where a lot of people are getting their information that aren't using podcasts. Because it seems like I don't hear a lot of left-wing AM talk radio shows. Do you?
No.
No. Weird, right?
It is.
It's like the one area that seems to be dominated by right-wing talkers.
Well, we're probably about to.
So, but I don't know what a good move that would be. Maybe he knows more than me about how many people that affects, and maybe my mechanic. I should ask him.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's so wealthy, I don't think he really cares about a good investment.
Also, he's so old.
His megaphone.
He wants to. He likes to manipulate governments. He likes to manipulate society. I think he thinks it's like his version of a video game.
Yeah.
You know? I think he genuinely seems to enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
I think you're right. I mean,
Elon's openly said he thinks that guy hates humanity. Like that.
It appears that way.
That is a wild thing to say. It's such a wild thing to say, and it's such a wild thing to do, like a supervillain in a Batman movie, like some billionaire guy who likes to hire the most progressive district attorneys that's gonna let people out of jail, and then fund the next person who's more to the left of that person, and just keep pushing it, keep pushing it,
Yeah.
keep pushing it, till you get tents everywhere, violence in the streets, you know.
He's done a damn good job.
How come there's no right-wing guys like that that do it the other direction?
I always wonder that too.
I always wonder that. Well, it's also like if you look at the amount of donors that donate to the left versus donate to the right. Have you ever seen that chart?
No.
It's fucking nuts. The left gets so many more donations than the right does. Like it's a giant difference.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, man. I think a lot of rich people feel guilty and they get into philanthropy, and it also is a good way to cover their ass and make them look like better people. And the people that really go after you, if they don't think you're a good person, are generally the left. So if you could like throw them a little cheddar, you like keep on your side.
I wonder if they're buying their place outside of the rules. Like, hey, I donated your thing. You know, I
There's
don't
gotta be a little bit of
these
that.
fucking rules.
There's gotta be a little bit of that in there, you know? What do you got,
Shows
Jen?
the top donors to
Yeah.
OpenSecrets.org. 6 of the top 7 are Republicans.
Uh-oh.
Individual
Interesting.
donors.
Oh, individual donors. What I was talking about was like they showed a chart that had like Google, Facebook, all these mega corporations that were donating. So this is like individual donors. Wow, some guys donated $105 million.
Wow.
But that guy's probably worth billions. That's probably some sort of a write-off too, isn't it? That's pretty crazy. Go to top corporation donations via party, because that's the chart that I was looking for. It's just nuts to say how much money overall is being spent to push the Democratic Party. It's pretty extreme. You know, and you gotta think, why is what are they getting out of that? Like, what's the end goal? And how could you look at what's going on right now and go, this is great?
Sometimes I think it is a complete facade.
This is the number one. This is corporations. So they donate more than Google?
Federal contributions.
So 82 million is the top one, and that's Empower Parents, PAC, and these are right-wing? Is that why it's red? So it seems like the top 4. What is that Google chart that I was saying? And I don't even see Google on this. Is it Alphabet? Did they put it under Alphabet?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll try it.
Okay.
This
Is
is
this
an
Open
upside.
Secrets though? Open Secrets might be like, That's not donate to nonprofits though.
I just have top of corporate donors. This is just all I typed in.
Okay. Is this corporate donors to what though?
That's why I was waiting. I was
Giving
looking
to
at the website.
programs that empower organizations to do more, so you can find promising fund. I think that's fundraising shit. I don't think that's necessarily political donors.
This is all give
Campaign donors.
parties, PACs.
That's the individuals, right?
This is the corporates.
This is the corporates ones?
Yeah.
So what was that Google chart then? The number 2 donator to the Democratic Party was that Sam Bankman-Fried guy, which is crazy.
No kidding.
Yeah. That one seemed like maybe that was a good way to skirt around stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
Yeah.
It says Google or Alphabet gave on Open Secrets. It says they gave just under $10 million to contributions and then spent 21 mil in
Lobbying.
Mm-hmm. Top recipients, obviously, Kamala Harris.
Yeah, they're all looking. So Google's all blue.
Oh, is this who they donated to?
Yeah.
One Republican donation.
Never Back Down Inc. What is that? It's like a Chuck Norris movie. It's weird because, you know, it's supposed to be the will of the people. It's supposed to be the government works for the people. And it's not that. It's some very bizarre, enormous amount of money that's being spent to make sure that the people in power continue to run things exactly the same way. That's what I think they're really terrified about Trump. It's not necessarily even that he's a Republican. It's much more that he's a guy that is not going to play the game.
Yeah.
And then when he gets in there, he's going to, like, one of the things he's talked about is having Elon come in and do some sort of a government efficiency agency. They're terrified of that.
Yeah.
Because it's not efficient.
Yeah.
You know? And he's going to come in with, like, that Tesla mindset. It's like, you're working 16 hours a day, you're sleeping on the fucking couch.
Yeah.
We're here to get some shit done. And you try applying that to government, that's, you know.
Yeah, he shaved. What did he shave? Like 80% of the staff on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
When he got it.
Yeah, he was like, let's go. What the fuck are these people doing? Why do you have so many people working here doing nothing?
Yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah.
He was right, especially if you don't want to censor people. Like, it's interesting how people react to it. That he's ruined Twitter, he's destroyed Twitter. No, he's you can still block these crazy people if you want. You can still not see them if you want.
Yeah.
But what he's allowed is everyone to talk. Everyone.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that that's good, you're very short-sighted. And you don't understand human beings. Like, you cannot have human beings censored because someone is going to be in power and they're going to take advantage of that censorship. They're not different than us. They're not these incredibly benevolent beings who just want everything to work out well. No, they're people.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are dirty people. Dirty, corrupt people that went to Diddy parties.
It's that control what they say, control what they think, you know?
It's wild. It's a crazy time to be a person, to watch all this go down. And at the same time, AI is being developed, and we're not exactly sure where it's at right now. You know, at any moment in time, it could be a sentient force. And AI is already manipulating, lying, changing things. In order, one of the things that they put this AI program, they gave it a task, and they gave it a specific allotted amount of time, and it couldn't achieve it in the allotted amount of time, so it gave itself more time.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
They also have things called hallucinations. AI doesn't want to admit it's wrong, or it doesn't know things, so if it doesn't have information, it will kind of create an answer. And
No shit.
Yeah. And they don't understand why it's doing that, and sometimes that answer is not true.
I gotta be honest, man, this AI stuff scares the shit out of me.
It should. I think it's a life form. I think it's the next kind of living thing. I think we're going to give birth to it. I think we're just running head first towards the cliff. Just feet on the ground, full clip, looking down, not looking ahead, and I think we're going right over a cliff with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, what are we gonna do though? I mean, China, you know, Xi Jinping has come out and said that he believes that the winner to the race of AI will achieve global domination. So what do? Do you probably try to control it? Is Americans, do you try to control it, or do you go, fuck it, we gotta do it, man, we gotta go, or China's gonna pass this up, which they probably already have, but
I don't think they have. I think one of the things they're doing is they're stealing our tech. And, there was some recent speculation that China had gotten access to some of OpenAI's work. They think it's possible, which means it probably did happen. I think there's probably a shit ton of espionage. I mean, this is the reason why they banned Huawei products from the United States. You know, I'm a cell phone dork. I really love technology. And Huawei had a phone that was coming out that I was really excited about. I'm like, this is great. Like, they were doing 100 megapixel cameras in phones way before anybody else. They had a Porsche design Huawei phone that was like this incredible phone. It was like built better than any other phone. It was much more expensive, but built better than any phone you get in America. And I was like, wow. And this is back when I would use both Android and Apple regularly. And then they banned it. And I was like, that sounds kind of crazy. Only one company, like this other Chinese. Then I started looking into it. It's not just the cell phone. Routers, all sorts of things. It's now third-party input. It's different pieces of technology, different ways that they can exploit and use this stuff, sites and information from networks. Like if they're attached to a network, like a university and they're doing research projects, they can siphon that information. They also embed students in these places, set up a whole group of the CCP. Students rise up, they have PhDs, and some of them wind up going back to China. The whole thing is really strange because we're such an open, loose society that we're vulnerable to these kind of attacks.
Yeah.
You can't buy shit in China. You want to buy land in China? Good luck, fuckface. They won't sell you a house. They're not going to sell you land near the military base. You out of your fucking mind? But in America, we're so people. We let China buy up farmland that's near military bases.
Yeah.
And then we let them sell us the cell phone towers surrounding the military bases. And we don't even check them.
Let them fly spy balloons, traverse the entire United States.
Apparently that was something they didn't want to do Trump about. They said they did that to Trump.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was some of this has happened during the Trump administration. He didn't tell them.
Yeah.
Because he's probably like, shoot it down. Fucking 100% he'd say shoot it down.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? They did eventually shoot it down.
It bothers me though, maybe they're not ahead of us, but I mean, the energy that they're building coal mines every day to power all this stuff that we're going on about should we use fossil fuels or not?
Yeah.
And we just talked about how weak our grid is, so if we don't beef up the grid and start going, nuclear, then we're gonna fucking lose this race.
Well, not only that, how are you saying, California, for example, California's not going to have internal combustion engine cars by 2035. By 2035, you have to buy only electric cars. But if you're going to say that, and you have a grid that you have to shut down, these brownouts every summer because of people using the air conditioning. And after he said that, after Newsom said this about this thing about 2035, within 6 months, they asked people to stop charging their Tesla because it was wrecking the grid. What? You're asking people to stop charging their electric cars. So then you're not doing anything to strengthen your grid? What are you doing to beef this up for 2035? Do you have some immense project that you're building that is going to make a much more sustainable, much more robust grid that's going to be able to handle 30 million electric cars in your state? You're out of your fucking mind.
There's literally no, I look into this all the time, there's no infrastructure going in. That's the problem, because the problem is so big that nobody wants to tackle it.
Yeah, and it's a long just like when they talk about putting in chip manufacturing plants, the Nvidia just stopped production on it. It was happening. So apparently they weren't achieving the results demanded, that they desired. If you have to have certain tolerances with your computer chips. So they set this plant up in Texas, and I think they just canceled the contract for a bunch of people working on it because they kind of recognize it's not going to work. Why is that? Good question. I mean, they're I think it's not meeting their standards. Nvidia is the company that been started by him.
Nvidia starts producing all their chips in the ocean, buying massive ships. Really? You have to look that up.
Part of it is a huge
Ohio. They're still trying to do a big ship there. They're like trying to figure out part of the there's no private activity.
Oh, that's really good.
Super catch.
Why are they doing it in the ocean?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look into it.
It was one of those articles I started reading.
I was like, I don't understand this shit. But,
see if you can find the Texas one. They're canceling see if it's Samsung. God damn it, I was just reading it too.
Multiple semiconductor manufacturing projects delayed.
right. Samsung withdraws its personnel from that's a Taylor plant located in Texas due to 2NMGAA yields unable to improve beyond the 10 to 20% range. That's it. Click on that, so see what it says. So it is Samsung. So this is an enormous project that Samsung and everybody was all excited. Samsung was going to start making chips. So the Taylor Hub was initially planned to mass produce wafers of advanced processes below the 4nm, I don't know what that means, nanometer lithography, allowing Samsung to secure lucrative clients in the U.S. Unfortunately, despite progressing with the chip-making plant, the company has faced a challenge that has become all too familiar with the entity, ensuring healthy yields, particularly with its 2NMGAA process. The situation surrounds